Thank you very much for having me. Don't
yet.
You have the right to remain silent.
Is it finished?
Yeah, I just saw your character expired.
Because it's in a TV. Do you have a single fact to back that up?
You know, this is the one where you think you're funny.
You understand me?
I think you need to go get a dictionary.
Well.
I just ripped ass really big.
This is how we're going to start the podcast.
That should be getting to you in about 5 or 10
I
seconds.
am so happy.
The thing is, like, I could tell it had a noise to it because I could feel how much it rumbled.
Right.
Like this whole seat like shook. But we had our headphones in and the intro was playing, so I was like, oh, we didn't detect that with our ears, but
Well,
I know it's on its way to you.
this is the best opening to a podcast that has ever been. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, then I accomplished what I set out to do. So thanks for joining us. Good day.
Well, we're going to shut it down now. Thanks for joining us.
Well, the reason for this ass blast was, as we were just mentioning a moment ago before the podcast, is I've been starting to eat sheets every single night, like ritualistically. It's just become like the thing to do once it gets to be 5 or 6 o'clock.
Right.
Sheets is like half a mile walk from here.
Right.
And so because we've just entered a lockdown for the next month, there's no going to the gym. There's no going to jujitsu. Yeah. There's no going to the Timeline Arcade or the mall. Well, maybe the mall is still open.
You sound like you're from the 80s.
I wish I was.
I can't go to the arcade with my friends.
Oh, God. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So but Sheetz is still open and Walmart's still open. So now I've just been putting so much of this delicious Sheetz food in my body. Right. My body's punishing me for it.
If you're not from the northeastern part of the country and you're from some other place, Sheetz is a gas station that has basically turned into a Pennsylvania phenomenon of made to order food. It's like fast food, but gas station on steroids.
Yeah, like I thought a 7-Eleven is like that gas station food, but Sheetz,
Sheetz is a different level.
I don't really call it gas station food because they put so much into their kitchens. It's really like, I mean, yeah, they have gas there, but Sheetz is like...
It's like a different level.
Right. You go in and it's not just like chips and drinks. Like,
yeah, I would say it's comparable to fast food, but it's not quite... It's also not fast food.
Yeah, I mean, depends on which Sheetz you go to. Some of them you're going to wait a while to get your food, and others, or it depends how crowded they are, as with anything. But they, like, all in all, overall, my experiences with Sheetz have been like positive ones. I think they're pretty on it. But I got to say, like, the best food, as like get the food to you the fastest, is like Chick-fil-A.
Oh, 100%.
They're just like on it all the time. Wherever I go, whichever Chick-fil-A it is, they're killing it.
I think.
What kind of standards do they hold their employees to there?
The high standards.
Like, do they make you take like a PT test when you get
I don't know. If there are any Chick-fil-A employees that listen or watch any of these podcasts, please reach out to us. You can send us a voice memo or message on Anchor. You can direct message us on any social media. If you are a Chick-fil-A employee, we want to talk.
Send us chicken.
Send us chicken also.
And garlic herb ranch.
We will interview you live on YouTube.
We'll do it live.
To get the skinny on the processes behind Chick-fil-A.
Where do you think Chick-fil-A compares with something like McDonald's or Burger King or like other fast food? Because when I think of fast food and I think of like the dirtiest kind, that'll just like
what?
Like that'll mess you up.
I think of the dirtiest kind.
The dirty
you just mean like are you talking about quality or like they're like I walk in and my shoe got stuck to the floor because nobody cleaned?
Well, that's like you could have like a really, really awesome McDonald's where it's like super clean.
Right.
But how bad is like McDonald's food for you, like
I
in
mean,
general.
think statistically it's pretty bad.
And then I would ask that same question of like Chick-fil-A, like if you had nothing but McDonald's for like
Right.
1 year, and you had nothing but Chick-fil-A for 1 year,
Yeah, but
who would it do more damage to? I've always kind
I
of
think
felt like
both of them will do damage for you. I mean, I could be completely wrong in this. I think Chick-fil-A is probably a little bit more quality on the quality side of things.
Yeah,
If you look at their menu, it's very simple. It's not like they need to go overboard with stuff, I guess. I don't know. It also depends on what you're eating every day. Also, because you could get a salad at McDonald's every day, and it's probably not the best salad for you, but it's going to be better than eating.
I've heard the salads are worse for you
burger.
than the burgers at McDonald's. Like
I
they have
don't know
even
how
more.
that's possible.
I don't know.
Or
I've just heard it.
maybe if it's more like chemicals and whatnot to preserve it, maybe
Who knows?
whatever they do there.
They probably make their hamburgers the same way they make their salads. For
Let's
all
squeeze
I know.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just is made out of some pink slime jelly.
God,
And that's your salad,
it's disgusting.
but it's so good.
It is.
I mean, I don't eat McDonald's salads. I'm talking about like
Yeah.
burgers and fries and stuff.
This man does not eat vegetables hardly at all.
Broccoli, I'll have me some broccoli. I'll eat the leaves off the broccoli. Sometimes I'll have the
You just won't eat
The
the
trunk.
stalk. The stalk? The
Eh,
trunk?
sometimes the trunk. It depends. Like usually I'm too full to eat the trunk. I can like just nibble on the leaves and then just throw
Just
the
ha-
throw the
one
trunk
piece
down.
of broccoli. Oh, it's too much.
Yeah, it's like there you go, body. You've had your greens.
God. Maybe that's why your body doesn't work as well as it used to. Gotta eat
Mm.
them vegetables.
I feel like you can take vitamins and stuff and get like a lot of sun and add some apples.
Get a lot of sun.
Yeah, like you
I don't need any of that stuff. I can get my vitamin D from the sun.
right. That's how my mind works. It's like
Right.
there's these healthy things that you should do.
Right.
And like if I can think of like 4 or 5 main ones, my brain is just like, well, as long as you do 3 or 4 of them,
Then you've checked off halfway.
you can let yourself go on that other one like completely. You can just let one be like non-existent.
Right.
And that's like what vegetables are for me. It's
Yeah.
like that health aspect, which I should be bringing into my life, which I should be nourishing my body
Right.
with, is just completely absent. Vegetables just don't make it in there. I don't eat carrots. I don't eat string beans, peas. I don't eat any of
String
it.
beans?
No, I don't.
Green
I
beans?
just don't.
Is that what you call them?
Any
String beans?
whatever bean. I don't eat any beans.
Can we
I
get
don't even
stuck
eat
on this for 2
beans. I
minutes?
don't eat vegetable beans or like the Mexican. What do you call them? They look like seed pods. Like
Beans?
regular beans. I don't eat any kind of
Okay.
beans.
Why?
I just
You don't have like baked beans every once in a while?
well, I don't eat the Mexican beans because they just look like bug pods.
I'm
to
not
me.
sure what a Mexican bean is.
Well,
It may just be a bean.
I'm distincting between vegetables and like just the beans.
Other vegetables?
Well, because you're the one that threw out like, well, what bean? Like string beans?
Well, you got like green beans.
green beans. don't-
You have stuff like lima beans, and then you have other beans like kidney beans and stuff like that. They're all beans.
Well, in any case, I don't touch the beans along with the vegetables.
Gosh. Why not beans? You don't like the flavor or texture? Or
Neither one of those, and I just think they look like bug pods.
they're delicious. Do you eat refried beans?
No,
Why?
no kind of beans. I just don't. I just
That's
was
so
never.
odd.
I was just never on board with them. I don't know why.
Gosh, I don't understand that.
They're
but
just like if I have like a burrito, if I go to like Chipotle and they were to
Yeah.
accidentally put like a bunch of beans in it.
like
I-
a thin layer of refried beans is always really, really nice. Like if it's super thick and it takes over, it's kind of like that's disgusting.
Yeah, well, in a Chipotle burrito, you got like those beans mixed in with the rice. If there's like one here and one there, whatever, not really going to taste that. But once you start to get, equal same amount of beans as there is rice, we got a problem here.
To be honest with you, when I eat rice, you've never had like rice and beans?
No, I've had rice and beans,
Man, dude.
but it's in a when it happens, it's by accident in a Chipotle. So
That's terrible.
I don't just get bowls
Listen,
of beans and rice.
growing up, my parents had friends, and the guy was from Puerto Rico or Cuba, not Cuba, Puerto Rico. I don't remember. Anyway, I'm butchering that part about the story, but he made like authentic rice and beans like that his mom used to make down south, like, over the ocean. Like, it was the best. The best. It was so good.
I'm not saying
I can't live a life without that stuff.
I'm not saying there isn't someone out there.
I had
that couldn't
rice
make
and
a magic bean.
a kind of bean tonight.
Oh, did you?
Peas, which are in the bean area.
Well, you know what? When I was just at Sheets just now tonight,
You had peas?
I almost ordered. I clicked on like the Mexican menu, and there was a burrito of sorts.
Yeah, with rice and beans.
Yeah, and rice and beans was on there, and I was about to order it, but then I was
So
like, I don't know how many beans are going to be on.
What does
this
that even
burrito.
mean?
It means my burrito.
What's the ratio supposed to be?
It means the
for every
ratio of my
100
burrito's
rice
deliciousness
grains?
is going to go down.
I love a good rice and beans. That's all I'm saying.
I love a good rice. I love a
What? Well,
I love a good white rice.
so
with
far this
butter and
conversation is riveting.
I love a good white rice with butter and salt on it.
I won't eat my vegetables, but when I have something that's kind of neutral, I'll destroy it with tons of butter.
Absolutely, because essentially that's what your empty calories globbed over with butter and sprinkled up with salt. So you're just
Equal
like
real calories.
it's like every day you're just taking a glob of like a spoonful glob of butter with salt on it.
right, yeah.
But I don't eat rice every day. I was.
Well, I think eating rice every day is not like the worst thing in the world for you. It's just kind of whatever.
Oh no, I don't think there's anything wrong with the rice. I'm just talking
I
about
love rice.
the butter and salt I put on it.
Yeah, that I don't think there's many times in my life that I would have ever added. But see, I'm kind of like, I really enjoy, if something is not good naturally, then I'm not going to like amp up the flavor just so I can eat it type of a thing. So like when I think of rice, I think of just rice. Like that's the taste I want in my mouth. Because if you have like, just think like General Tso's chicken or something. The reason why I feel like the rice tastes so good with like General Tso's or like sweet and sour chicken or orange chicken or like anything like that is because the rice is like so plain. And then you get some of that like juice on the rice, and then it's like, oh my god, there it is. That's the that's the stuff.
That rice just fills your mouth up. It gets all behind your teeth and in your
It's
gums.
so delicious.
And it like the rice has little bits of sauces on them, like whatever kind of sauce.
Yeah.
Yum yum, soy, teriyaki, whatever. And that just gets like all in your mouth. It's just like all the taste buds
Saliva.
are firing, and all the taste buds are picking up some sensory from
love it.
from all that you got in there. That big garble full of with a chicken at the
I
centerpiece,
thought you were going to go back to Chick-fil-A
just being chewed up and tossed
with that
around a
Chick-fil-A
little bit.
sandwich in between the rice.
I don't think I could put like Chick-fil-A chicken like with other just throw it in with other Chinese food. I would know. I would just be like, this isn't
What? Just like the actual chicken?
like if you were to mix Chick-fil-A chicken in with like a American Chinese food meal, like would that go together, or would you be like, there's something off about this?
I don't see why it wouldn't. It would taste different than the normal stuff, of course.
Because the American Chinese food, it's like that chicken has a certain taste to it.
Yeah.
That lets you know.
It's also
it's American Chinese.
just like globbed with sauce.
Yeah,
so it's not like
they do their thing with it.
Like if you took that sauce and globbed it onto Chick-fil-A chicken, I don't see why it would be like so far fetched. I think you could get somewhere close to it. It definitely tastes different, but
yeah. Well, anywho, so that's where that fart came from.
What is this? A 15-minute fart story?
I just had to bring it full circle.
Right. So we titled this episode December 2020. The last 2 weeks of 2020.
Yep.
And it has been a doozy this year. So
it's been one for the books.
Yeah. We were just going to talk about I guess kind of us or wedding stories and what we're doing, what we're trying to do.
We're just kind of
PlayStation 5 woes.
going with the breeze on this one. We'll see where it takes us.
Right.
But since you mentioned the year and there's only 2 weeks left of it, is there anything we want to say about this year, or is there anything we could say about this year? Just to sum it all up. I mean, yeah, I don't think you can really.
No.
Is this the worst year like in the history of America, or has there been years that are worse? Like there's years during the Civil War.
Yeah, I don't know
Which-
because it's hard to compare this year to other bad years. Because most of the time when you have something really, really bad, it's something very, very different. Like, yeah, we could go back the whole way to the Civil War. Was the Civil War worse than a virus? Like, you could debate that, yes, it was, because then, like, that's choosing death. You're choosing to kill people for war. You know, was it for good reasons? Some say yes, some say those reasons aren't valid, and you know, it's like with everything.
It depends how you measure it too.
Right.
Like, are we talking about loss of life? Because in the Civil War, you had
Oh, yeah, you could talk
600
about
and
this.
620,000 deaths, I believe, or soldiers
Right.
that were killed during the Civil War, and that was, I think, more than half of them just from disease.
Right.
Not even by like a bullet or artillery, but just like disease running rampant. So, in any given year of the Civil War, if you're just talking specifically about number of fatalities, compare that to 2020, and I don't know, maybe 2020 does take the
What
title
is-
of like worst year of all time.
Of the United States.
Yeah,
Well, hold on. Let me look real quick.
because there's certain things that happen in the world or in a country or during whatever point in time, and there are certain things where very few people feel the effects of it.
Right.
And then there's other things that happen where everybody feels the effect of it.
So this is just the basic Google lookup. It says 302,000 deaths.
Okay, so
we're like edging on halfway to the Civil War.
Yeah, and that's Civil War after the span of 5 years fighting.
Right.
This is just
Right.
1 year.
I think
1 year
now.
into it.
So here's my honest opinion, and I know there's like a lot of opinions on this COVID thing. So, kind of regardless of where you end on this thing, where it's like whether you believe it or not, like that spectrum of confusion some people have.
Because there's still people that don't even believe it exists.
Yeah. So, regardless of what you think your rights should be, whether it's real or not, whatever, here's my opinion on it. Whether or not all these people are dying like from 100% COVID, like stuff with the virus or not, like 302,000 people, that's crazy. That's an intense amount of people, like in the amount of time that this has been tracked. So obviously this is really confusing for some.
Yeah.
I mean, to get like super personal, my grandmother passed away this year, which was ridiculous, and she had Alzheimer's, but she also tested positive for COVID. I don't think she passed away from COVID,
But they called it a COVID.
but she probably got marked down as a COVID death.
Yeah.
Because one, she tested positive, she showed no symptoms, no signs of anything COVID related, and she was in her 80s, so she would have been like prime candidate for, you know, COVID to run rampant. And there was never really anything COVID related that happened to her. She just had like I think she had a fever a couple days and that was it. But does that attribute to like the Alzheimer's probably pushing farther? Probably. Because like when your immune system goes down or this and that, blah, blah, blah. So like if we can link everything back to like maybe COVID aiding a disease or a weak immune system into killing 302 people, however you want to look at it. It's not something I want to argue about because it's just, at this point, it's just so ridiculous. But like, this has been a really weird and bad year. Like, and it has nothing to do with just America in general. Like, this is the world that dealt with this.
Right.
And I mean, you look at America, and I don't think we've done a great job.
No, you
to put it lightly, but I don't, I don't know. I mean, you see stuff all online about people from, country X, and they're like, oh yeah, we just shut it down. Like, stopped
right.
the world around us for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and we don't have any new cases. Like, the one fault in America's like structure is we can't stop at all ever.
Yeah.
Because it's just like so like, how unnatural it'd be for like a president to get up and be like, look, I'm issuing martial law, we're shutting it down, like everything stops, grocery stores can stay open to feed people, that's it, we're shutting it down. And there's no like back alley where like governors, like, because they're, not to name names, but there were governors the first shutdown around this area that had their own businesses that became essential during the shutdown. They're not essential businesses. They don't keep people alive. Yes, they feed families and stuff, but like, if we could just shut it down, or would have shut it down, I think we would be beyond this.
Yeah.
But we can't. We as America, there's too much of that, like, you're taking away my rights.
Yeah.
Which deep down inside, I get it. I understand that. I would never want to get into a situation where something was taken from me and now you have to earn it back in a violent way. I would never want that for anybody. I don't quite think that's what we're talking about, but there's too many. I mean, I love a good conspiracy, but there's too much of the nonsense around stuff like this. That's why,
Yeah. Well, like you were saying about what all the other countries are doing, where it's just kind of like this blanket declaration of like, okay, we're just shutting it all down. We're not picking and choosing
Right.
favorites. We're just, this applies to everybody.
right.
And we're going to get through this really fast. Whereas
Right.
over here, it's just like, it applies to you over here, but not you over here. And so it's this wishy-washy, not full committed, half-assed,
Yeah.
confusing. Everyone's confused. And that's why we've
Yep.
just been over here kind of running in circles, spinning our wheels in the mud because and not getting anywhere, just getting worse. And now look at the shit that we're in.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're the laughing stock of the world over here.
Well, I don't care what the world thinks about us. I just care about.
Well, I don't give a shit either because like I'm just, as an individual, like the whole world isn't looking right at me specifically, but at the country that I live in.
Right.
And it just feels like you look at the virtual map and the charts and it's just like, well, something went really wrong over here.
Oh yeah. Well, you can, like, charts for COVID, you can see where like chart, like, everything's rising, shutdown happened, and the beginning of the shutdown, it was so insane because you had not moved into here yet, but so both of us live very close to each other, and we live next to a pretty busy, I think technically it's a highway, it's only 2 lanes, but it basically goes in and out of a city within an hour or so. But sorry, I'm getting stuck
It's like it's one of
stupid
those stretches
details, but
between like Baltimore and Harrisburg.
Right.
It's like a lot flows
So-
between the two.
there is traffic nonstop all the time. There's, it may be 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning when you finally get that, like maybe 2 to 4 in the morning, you finally get that ease up of traffic. When we shut down for the first time and people actually took it seriously, it was so odd. There was hardly any traffic. Like in the morning, you did have the essential workers going to and from, where they were going. And then in the evening, you had that like weird rush hour, if you will, but it was nothing like it normally is. And then you got like 2 or 3 weeks into it, and then our governor decided to like lift some stuff, and then everybody was just like back to normal.
Yeah, that's
And
the
that was it.
thing. Everybody just kind of like acts like it's just over all of a
Yeah.
sudden. That's like what
Yeah.
happens over here.
Now-
Everyone just like
yeah.
whatever the news is
Now-
reporting
Yeah.
or not reporting it. If they're not reporting, everyone just forgets about
Right.
it. Like it
Now
doesn't exist.
I will blame that on just that like that switch on uncertainty in reporting and any statement from any type of person in leadership. And it's not 100% their fault, because when this virus like hit and we knew it was like, okay, this thing's in America, which I believe it was here much earlier than what we acknowledged, at least at the beginning. But everything was so uncertain because nobody had any information on this. It wasn't like the common cold where we can just smack someone in the face with, something and it's gone. Your cold's gone.
Right.
It's not like that. We had little to no information on this, and people just like went from 0 to 100 trying to get information, and every time like little tidbit of information that was gotten was just plastered somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the news just plastered it even farther to the point where it's like, what's the real deal? And then as soon as any type of like regulation was lifted or gradually rose because, hey, things are getting better, people were like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Crisis over.
Yeah, crisis over. We figured it out. See ya. And that was bad. Like, that was bad.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, not to get into super detail, but like there were businesses definitely open that were not like there's no way they're essential. Like everybody can say, oh yeah, my product, people want my product, so I'm essential. No, not when we're talking about something like this. Like if we could have shut down for 4 or 5, if we could have shut down for a month, like truly shut down, hospitals, grocery stores stay open. Everybody just stops. Stay home for 4 weeks of your life. For God's sake, people can do it.
Mhm.
Get used to your
Well,
family.
the alternative was much worse, so
Get used to it
that's what we did do.
and get over that you're going to have to be around your family more than normal. Shut down for 4 weeks, hospitals, grocery store open. I think we would have been like some of the other countries where like it just dropped violently off.
Yeah.
And at minimum, it would have given us time to just dig a little bit more on the scientific side of things.
And hospitals
minimum.
wouldn't have been so overwhelmed.
Right. I mean, you personally know someone who works at a hospital right now. I know someone else that works at a hospital right now that are directly dealing with COVID patients. And I know everybody's like, hospitals aren't full. What the heck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, nah, these two people, separate hospitals, it's booked. People are literally not being able to have the correct care that they need because, equipment is being stretched to its limits, and people can say whatever they want about it, but this is people that work in the field.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not going to sit in my house and say, the hospitals are fine. I drove by yesterday. There weren't no cars in the hospital parking lot. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
These are people that like see it firsthand. And yeah, to some extent, it may not be as like psychodramatic as like some of the news has said. But I mean, you remember one of the first videos that were ever released, like, oh, that guy had COVID. It was like from China and some guy just like dropped in the street. Do you remember that vaguely?
I don't actually.
So like that video was shown everywhere, and it was just like some guy, and they claimed that he had COVID. He like dropped out, and it was just like this disease like killed him on the spot, and it was like so dramatic because there was no information.
Right.
And it sucks because now we're here, and there was so much back and forth with information that literally, just like everything else, it was made political. Yeah. And you know what politics do? Pick a side or you're stupid.
Right.
And that's what it became. And it was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Any way we can find to divide ourselves and stand on like one side of an arbitrary line or the other,
Yeah.
and then just declare everyone else on the other side of the line our enemy and stupid and ignorant, and
Right.
like, oh, we're the ones that have stumbled onto the truth, and we're the enlightened ones over here, and we have all the answers,
Yeah.
and you over there, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
And we're not even going to bother talking to you or communicating you about it because you're too stupid to communicate with. Like you're not even worth having the conversation with.
Right.
You know, like any way we can politicize anything.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No, I really don't either. But
To attempt to answer your actual question, do I think this year is like the worst year? Well, I can tell you for a fact that this is the worst year of like my life in America. So,
our short lives
yeah.
in our
We're-
30 years.
Yeah. So, in 30 years, this is probably the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which maybe in the grand scheme of things, it's like, okay, every 30, 40 years, something pretty bad's happening. But I don't know if statistically that's normal or okay. I don't know.
Would
You
you
know.
say like collectively, and I don't like marginalizing people into or countries into groups as a whole, but I'm gonna do it anyway for
Oh,
just for
God.
this.
Here
But
we
like,
go. Brace yourselves. We're getting canceled.
would you say America, like collectively as a whole, is just like more naive or the most naive, like in that mentality of like we're invincible over here, nothing can hurt me, nothing bad's gonna happen.
Well, I think 9/11 showed that.
Yeah, there was
Unfortunately.
there was that, which was a wake up call in a lot of sense, but it's like even that seems to have been, I don't want to say forgotten
Oh,
by
it
a
has
lot of
been.
people, but
That's because
remember
it's,
9/12?
it's
like,
a generational thing.
how united everybody was on 9/12.
Yeah. So like this pandemic is going to be like for people that it affected directly, this is going to be their 9/11.
Yeah.
For us, I mean, I remember every second of watching this. It was just like so burned into my memory that this is one of the things that I remember vividly. Like, we were not at school because my parents always took vacation just when it became off season to go to the beach. So rates were cheaper. So we were at the beach on 9/11, and I remember getting out of bed and coming downstairs, and like everybody's gathered around the TV watching.
Yeah.
And this was down in Maryland. So down around like that area, there are bases all over the place, obviously in America, but like all along the coastline, there's bases for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You know, military bases. I remember sitting there and watching the building burn, and something passed between the second building and like the frame of the shot, and like literally 4 seconds later,
Yeah.
like the
fireball.
second plane hit, and I was like, oh my. I remember saying out loud, there's another plane. Like, I remember that. Like, it's burnt in my memory. Like, that'll never go away
Yeah.
for me. And like as soon as like it became like, oh my God, the nation is under attack, like all day, jets, whoosh, whoosh, like all the coastline, just
Right.
pacing back and forth.
That's so bananas.
Yeah, it was just the most surreal experience because it felt like okay, there's only one time in my life that I can remember America stopped, and it was September 11th and 12th. The entire country stopped to watch one thing.
Yeah.
That was the only time we've ever stopped. So like when I look at this pandemic, we should have stopped. We should have attempted to do that September 12th thing where it was like, you know what? I don't care if you're on the red side, you're on the blue side. I don't care if you're on the green side. I don't care if you're whatever you are. I'm going to hold your hand because you're an American. That was the only time we stopped and said, okay. Everybody was like, you know, oops, sorry. And what it really felt like, everybody was just like,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Everybody like,
And it was just
recognized
like
each other as human
100%.
beings.
Yeah. And that was the last day I can remember that ever happening. And I might have been too young and too naive to understand like that's not how it really was, but I just remember like and I think why it's so impactful on me is because like up until that year, we had gone to the beach, stayed at the same place all the time. This was no different. When September 11th happened, that day and the next day were like violently different.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like you were in a different world. Like I remember going to the boardwalk, and even though it was off season, there would be hundreds of people there. There was not. One thing that's burnt into my mind, and it's just kind of like a funny thing, is there was two older women on the boardwalk that were twins, and for some reason my aunt went up and like started talking to them because she's my aunt, and that's like burnt into my memory, like as an oddity for that day. That's one of the only things I can remember, because if I would describe that day and the day after, it would just be just stillness.
Right.
Everything felt like everybody took a breath and then stayed quiet. That's what it felt like.
Right. I remember very little of that day, actually. Like, I remember seeing it on TV because we got out of school early and I had no idea why.
Right.
My parents were still at work, so I went to my friend's house who lived just a couple houses up the road and stayed there until my parents got off work. And I just remember watching it on TV, and the only image in my head I can see of it is just one news anchor of another talking with those towers behind them with smoke coming out of them.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and then eventually my parents got home and I like walked down to my house, and then I remember seeing the newspapers the next day in fucking Kmart.
Yeah.
When that still existed.
Kmart.
Yeah. And it was just like there's Bush on the cover and there's the towers with the ball of flame coming out of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's like my recollection of it. Like I don't know why I don't remember it even more. Like some people are like really really vivid about it, like you were just saying.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more foggy for me for some reason. Like I'll never forget being in that house and looking at the TV and the news anchors. I think I was just in a bit of a daze. Like my brain didn't even know how to process what I was seeing.
Well, so this is something that kind of brings me to the illusion statement, or the statement like "Make America Great Again." So that day September 11th, I think did a lot to young people. And it, like, I know for me, it took me completely out of like everything's okay, because all of a sudden it's not. And it was like blatantly in your face that it could be very bad very quick.
Yeah, you can bleed.
Yeah. So the reason why I said like "Make America Great Again" thing, I think that statement hits a chord to like a child American, where everything's just, unicorns and lollipops in your head, because there is no like abrasive friction that you deal with. Now, by all means, there are millions of kids that go through hell as kids. I'm not talking about them. Like, I'm just talking about what I would perceive as like the American child. Pick a news story or a Hallmark movie, like that type of situation. You're in this just kind of like world of like, I'm fine, you're fine, everything's fine. And that's that like "Make America Great Again" thing. I think that's why it like picked a lot of people, because it like really strung a chord of like, America was great at one point. When was that? And you're not really looking back in history. You're looking back in your timeline saying like, oh, this time period, it felt really good and safe and calm and still. Yeah. And that's because you didn't know the atrocities yet. And like that one thing was just like I think like in people's faces, literally.
I think the sentiment or the saying, just how about just make America great?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that have been better? Because you tag on that word again at the end, and
Yeah.
instantly that attributes the thought to the thought of like we're backtracking, we're taking a step back,
Right.
because the first question you ask again, like when it was like what,
Right.
and the first image that I always conjure up in my mind is like that place that it seems like Republicans are trying to what they're trying to mold like America into, like where it's
What's
this
the nuclear family?
yeah, the nuclear family. It's this pretty picture of mom, dad, son, daughter, and
Right.
it looks like Leave It to Beaver spread
Right.
across the land.
Yep.
And everyone's going to church on Sunday, and
Well, see, my biggest issue with that is, so not to get hyper political. Of course, I brought up the "Make America Great" thing, but not to get like straight up political, but like, man, I kind of lost what I was gonna say.
got their shotguns and their
Well, oh, that's what it was. So like, when you think of America, obviously there are some people that would really fight the whole idea of America completely, because we came here, took land, made our country, and then said this was always ours. This was ours. We claimed it in God's name.
right.
Which I'm not getting into that conversation, but when this country was set up, one thing that we did, I think, that was interesting, at least, maybe not the best way possible, but we did allow people from other countries to come here in mass quantities. And what that does is it takes your perfect idea and throws it out the window, because that idea of that perfect white nuclear family goes against completely
Right.
like what you built. So then I think, like, as America, not like as an American, you have to ask yourself, like, what's the image here? Because we're called the melting pot, so let it be the melting pot.
Yeah, exactly. Why can't it
I
be?
don't understand that confusion.
Whatever it is that makes you happy, as long as it doesn't harm other people, you can do that which makes you happy. If you want to be the nuclear family,
Right.
you can be the nuclear
And
family.
there's plenty of families like
Yep.
that.
If you want to call yourself a werewolf and get married to
Those are furries.
someone identifying as a tank, and the two of you have like 5 kids, none of them
Right.
gendered, and you want to dye your hair pink and green and pierce your faces and worship Satan, you can
Go
do that
ahead.
too.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? And you should be able to just find each other interesting. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're so interested. Oh, these people over there, man, they live so much differently than us.
Yeah.
Like, cool, whatever. So what? They're not. That doesn't make them evil because they live life differently than you do, or
Right.
because they have a different worldview than you do, or they worship. They have a different name for God, or whatever. Like, none of that should matter. And I don't know why we're still so hung up on this stuff.
Well, it's because we,
Why?
as people,
We'll hit the camera.
as people, we endlessly want to put labels and boxes on things,
Because it's easy.
because that's number
It's
one.
convenient.
Not to be conspiracy-y, but number one, if you do that type of stuff from the top of a system, it's so much easier to control the system, because you put unnatural barriers around people that should never be there. I mean, think about racism. Like, just an unbelievable literal torture on the human race. And it has nothing to do with black and white. It has like everything to do with the idea that one type of person is greater than the other,
Right.
which is, I mean, we've had this conversation a million times. I don't know how long it's going to take for someone to look at another human being and say, the only difference there is his skin. Okay, cool.
Ooh,
He's a person.
A different amount of melatonin in the system.
Yeah.
A different skin pigmentation.
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Why are we still even having the discussion? This should be so far in the past.
And the reason why I say that is because it's easier for a power to control its people if everybody's in their boxes.
Mhm.
Because as long as you can preach to a box, then the walls that you have built unnaturally will take care of themselves. So, I mean, it's with everything: Republican, Democrat, black, white against
Yeah.
every race, whatever it is. And sure, we're two white males in America complaining about stuff, but
Well, we can do that. This is America.
right. So, which is what it makes
I thought
America
this was
great.
America.
I thought it was America. But my point is like I just wish people would, and I think this was definitely part of my reason for wanting to start a podcast, is I really think people need to learn to talk again
Right.
and not just say, I don't understand this, so it's awful. Like that mentality is just so gross to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I told someone, I probably mentioned this to you before, but recently I just really like the idea of like, if you come to a point where you say this is it and final, I think you're always wrong.
It's usually that
All the
person
time.
that's like, it's a fact. It's
Yeah.
a fact.
And the reason I say that is because when you say this is it, it's final, then that one leaves no room for growth, leaves no room for any type of change. And if new information does get brought up that proves you wrong, what are you going to do?
Right.
I mean, obviously, you should, in a grand scheme, say, okay, I was wrong. I get it. Now I believe this. Sure.
Right.
But that's not what we're seeing at all. What we're seeing is just blatant like ignorance in things where it's like, hey, this is probably a real thing. No, it's not, because I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
And but it always leads to some type of like physical altercation or just like some bashing of this because somebody has a difference of opinion. One of the best things about America is people can think differently. One of the biggest reasons people can complain is because they're allowed to do it. Like, in that sense, that makes America pretty good. Maybe not great, but pretty good. Because there are legit some countries where if you do this stuff, you're hunted down. Or, you go down a very speaky type path, you disappear. I mean, there are countries still in the world like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you hop on Twitter now and anybody can say what they want. It's just they're asking for a fight from the other side of the aisle, which is just so unfortunate because no one can talk anymore.
Right.
It's pick a side. What side are you on? And it's just assumption after assumption, because as soon as you tell me what side you're on, then I can yell at you for whatever labels are put to that side.
Right. Yeah. All I got to do is say, oh, if I were to say I'm a Republican, and then instantly that fills in the blank on
Right.
like 50 questions that the other person has. Like, oh, I already know most of what I need to know about you just by that.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's completely silly. And like I always told you, like growing up, I was going to church, like a really strong, fundamental Bible Baptist thumping,
It's Bible thumping.
Bible thumping church. And it was like, as you just said, like they drew that hard line in the
Yep.
sand where they're just like, this is it. And when you can't really argue against that kind of voice, because the person you would be talking to believes that they are speaking on behalf of a higher power.
Right.
And that'll be the hill they die on.
Right.
So
And
there's
that's-
no
yeah.
beating them in an
And
argument.
that's what I said. When you draw the line and say that what I'm doing is right and leave nothing to question,
Yeah.
you get that echo chamber for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, once you start involving I'm doing this for the deity,
Right.
like that, it becomes bigger than like, oh, this goes beyond just like my own life, and therefore like I guess it's that unstoppable force and immovable object kind of
Right.
dilemma. And it's kind of like feels like why a lot of things just never move forward. And I shouldn't say like, oh, nothing ever moves forward. I know there's like a lot of progress in a lot of different fields. Like
Right.
you could say that scientifically or agriculturally or whatever. Not an expert in the subject, but like in a lot of these like identity politics
Yep.
issues and of physical issues and environmental issues and skin color issues and gender issues. It's the
Everybody,
conversation
yeah,
just can't even be had. It's like
right,
it's like forbidden subjects to even talk about,
right,
because people just get so fired up and pissed off and amped up and like so passionately about
right,
it to the point where like there's people saying now like, oh, Civil War II is right around the
right.
corner. Like,
Which is just all blown out of
uh,
proportion and exaggeration to
yeah.
me.
I mean, I
I don't-
get it. Tensions are high, but like it is pretty scary. Like the more and more I hear about this, like Civil War II, like I've always been my feelings on that actually
you love
happening
the Civil War.
have imagining what it would look like just
Oh
because
God.
like there's the first Civil War, the blue and the gray and the musket balls and all that and the horses.
Right.
Fast forward to 2020, Civil War II, the sequel. What's that going to look like? I mean,
Oh, it's gonna
it would
be.
it'd be
I
like
mean,
factions, right?
oh yeah.
Like the MAGA
I
factions,
think. To be
the
honest with you, I
Antifa
think
faction.
that a lot of like the apocalyptic type movies and stuff aren't. I think in a certain world that it's like we've been foreshadowing things for years. Um, w- Part of me doesn't think that'll ever happen. I think if it does happen, it'll be very similar to like any just flip a coin on a movie, or draw a movie name out of the hat, and it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot like that.
It's just insane, like how not too long ago I was thinking to myself, it's impossible. It's just that
Right.
just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen nowadays. It's just
Right.
not something we have to worry about.
Right.
But now it kind of feels like the odds are still against it happening, but there's a chance.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
like a
there's
chance
always
like
a
the wrong
chance. Yeah.
person gets killed, or there's like a feud in the street. Like,
Right.
yeah, the wrong person gets killed,
Right.
and then that person's like, oh, we're taking revenge for that,
Right.
and then they kill someone over
I mean,
there.
you saw that
We're
type,
taking revenge for that, and they
you,
kill someone over
you
here.
saw that type of stuff during the protests.
Yeah,
Um,
it could get
so
real flared up
yeah.
for a while.
I mean, to be honest, in our area, a lot of like, not I wouldn't say hillbilly, but rural Pennsylvania, type people. Most people have got guns in their house. That wasn't a thing in the Civil War. So the Civil War, like here, if it would happen like during our days and on this earth, it would be very different. It would look very weird and probably very scary.
I'm
Because
not sure.
I mean, I know a handful of people that could literally have their own little army just from the weaponry they have.
Yeah,
You didn't have that in the Civil War. You know what I mean? So I do think it would be very factiony very quickly. I mean, just think about it. We live very close to a giant store.
yeah.
Can you imagine the one guy in this general area that has enough firepower to wipe us all out? That's his home base now.
Right. Yeah.
And
takes
you're
over.
gonna have to beg or trade and barter something to try to get in there to get something.
Like in the original Dawn of the Dead, when they were on their way to the shopping mall in the helicopter, the guy who's like set up to be like, oh, he's the hero of the movie. He
Right.
looks at everyone in the helicopter and he's like, don't be an idiot. We're thieves and we're bad guys now. That's just
Right.
the way it is.
Yeah.
And they found the gun store in the mall. They shut all the gates and they're like, this is our place.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's exactly whether you. So this actually brings up a good example. So Kim has been watching this show on Netflix called The 100, and I'm not going to pretend to know everything about it because I haven't watched all of it. I just like see a bit of an episode here and there while she's watching it, and but the grand scheme is somehow the Earth, I guess, ended, and it basically turned to factions. And just in one of the recent episodes, the factions had to kind of come together because there was a bunker and this like nuclear radiation storm that was sweeping over the Earth. So they had to pick people to go in the bunker type of a thing.
yeah.
Long story short, a whole bunch of them died because they couldn't work any type of system out. And then just to kind of flash forward, they ended up in space somehow. I don't know this part. I'll get to the point though. So this spaceship that they were in ended up being like the old world's way of like dealing with prisoners. So there was this ship with like 300 like prisoners in like cryo sleep.
Oh, okay.
What is that called?
Cryo. Yeah, I think you said it right.
There's another word for that, isn't there?
I'm drawing a blank on
Me
it.
too. Man, that's killing me.
Cryogenic, or no? Does that have anything to do with
Anyway, they were sleeping because they were really cold.
like in the Alien movies?
It's like every typical in space movie where you have to be put to sleep to travel long distances, and so they were in this frozen state. Okay, so these people get up here, realize what this ship is, and realize there's now this woman on Earth that showed up, that this is like her backup army. And they stand there and they literally have the ability to murderers, rapists, all these awful people.
Yeah.
Before they get down to Earth again and basically just pick up where they left off, fight for this like woman who's becoming this huge faction leader, and they've just become part of her army. She becomes stronger. And they sit and they have this discussion whether it's morally okay or not to do that to these people. And I looked at Kim and I was like, this is not a real conversation. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, in this situation, if the world ended and you have survived this long and stumble upon something that could literally turn a tide for people, there's no conversation. The deed is done. You don't worry about the moral dilemma of like, am I going to wake up with nightmares? No, you're going to kill all of those people because you want to survive and make a better world.
So there was 100 people left in existence, and the dilemma was awaken these 300 prisoners.
No, this is like paraphrasing a lot. Don't take anything for
Oh, okay.
I think it was like the original 100 people left, or what they thought was 100 people left, and then it became more and more. Like I said, I don't pretend to know the show, but
Right.
it was just that one example of kind of like the faction-y thing where like if you survived on the world, like Civil War happens in America, it's kind of apocalyptic. Like we still have electricity and stuff like this, but like people are very tense. Like everybody's carrying guns because who knows what. And you come upon like 300 frozen people that are prisoners. They're murderers. Like, they were sent to this area to be held because there's no prisons anymore. And they're just awful people. And that there's a person that's going to use these people as bad, like a bad tool if they would find them.
Right.
Wouldn't you kill them all?
No, I
Do
guess
you just
that's
walk on
how
that?
you decide if someone's a cynic or an optimist.
Well, here's the thing. If you're in a world where there is no optimism, it's survival. It's fight or flight. Those are your options now in this world. And this is what America, I think, because here's my whole point about America is great, is Americans have had the ability or the time to lose the fight or flight situation.
Or what that feels like.
What that feels like, yeah. Because yes, like I said before, there are really bad things that happen every day, and people do get put in those situations. But like in a grand scheme, like I can walk out of my house. I don't worry about walking out of my house and driving to the store or what. Now I do because of COVID, but
in terms of like civil unrest,
you know what I mean?
Things are still
so like if the world got to you're fighting or you're flighting, and those are the options at all times. Like you see someone, like you're in your house and you see someone walking by the road, like you have to make the decision whether you're making sure they can't see you or you're shooting them in the street because they could potentially bring other people to murder you or rob you or rape you, whatever. Like if it's those type of situations those decisions that had to be made all the time.
Right. And
you were scavenging and you found this bunker full of 300 just the gnarliest inmates that, together they killed 600 people in total. Like, you're really going to walk away with that from that and be like, well, I hope they turn out good this time.
Right.
You know, my point is, and of course, this show is a little on the dramatic side. So everybody's like, oh, we can't kill them because we're trying to make a better world now and not be like the old world. It's like,
Right.
well, you should probably kill these murderers and rapists, though.
I mean, if you don't exist at all, it's kind of hard to start a world.
And I know that's a harsh stance that I'm kind of like assuming that I would also take, but it's not as easy as being like, oh, we're going to flip the switch and they're dead.
No one would know until like you're in that situation and you know the circumstances and what's at stake.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's all kinds of different situations that could be. Like in Vietnam, like they didn't know who their enemy was in a lot of situations. Like there'd be these platoons that would take fire.
Yeah.
But you look all around and there's nothing but civilians.
Right.
Who popped the shot at us, and you know more and more American soldiers die, but you still you can't see your enemy, and then like a lot of that. And then so you question like the civilians, and even the innocent ones get blamed because you don't know, given the information that you have, you don't know if you can trust this person or not. And if you just let everything just be like, oh well, whatever, you know, we don't want to be insensitive, then there's still going to be even more loss of life, you know, on your side. So the world's like complicated, and
oh yeah, because some would argue that we should have never been there anyway. So
yeah,
which is a whole different rabbit trail.
Oh god, that's a whole like 20-part Ken Burns documentary to get to the bottom of all that.
So,
but
to bring it back to the original, well, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna try to like, I don't know. I'm trying to picture like if a civil war did happen, a second civil war in America, what it would look like, and what honestly, like if I had to take a guess of where I think things are gonna be, like if not in a few months, in a few years.
Yeah.
And like I don't mean to be a bit of a downer, but you know, I don't make reality, I just live in it. I think that I can kind of see a few months in the future of just like certain groups or certain factions of people getting really pissed off and taking drastic action, or in other words, killing other people in other groups. And then you're going to have a very big uprise coming from certain factions, whether it's 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many, there's so many groups now.
Yeah. Well,
but
so
I'll just finish my, I'll just wrap it up. But then
I have a question for you.
Like we were just talking about, right now we can walk out the front door and go to Walmart and feel like we're going to be okay other than COVID.
Right.
But I can just see a world pretty soon where it's like we're going to be talking about, hey, like remember the days where we could walk into Walmart and there wasn't metal detectors and a National Guard trooper standing there? And remember when we could go into town and not see Humvees driving up and down the road? Like, I think we're going to see several months of like National Guard.
Well, so I'll shed I'll shed some light for you on that. That's already happened. We're lucky enough to live in a rural area.
In the cities,
So,
but I think it's going to increase like a lot more to rural areas.
I don't think so. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I don't think we'll see it like in any type of like
I hope not.
Hyper capacity of like, wow, the world's now different. I don't think we'll see that.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Reason why, because one of the other things that makes America sometimes frustratingly great is there's so many checks and balances to American like politics and whatnots that half the time we can't get anything done because there's always like 90% of people want it done, and then there's like that crucial 1% vote, 10% vote that stops it or something ridiculous. So to get to the point where it's just like, wow, the world is different now. People back in the 20s would have said, this will never be like this. And of course it is not like that today, but I'm not naive in saying that I don't think it'll ever happen or it could never happen, but it would just take a lot because my thing, like this whole factiony thing and like the groups like becoming violent, like we've had that forever. We've had gangs, we've had all kinds of stuff like that happen.
I just think
And
the stage is set
there's
in a way
never I don't
that it's
I
never been set before.
I disagree with that completely. I think there's a lot of small groups of people that have spread their fingers over the country and have manipulated mainstream media to seem like it's hundreds of thousands of people everywhere that could kill at any second. That's what I think. I think the media has done a really good job at giving little groups big voices,
Well, yeah,
which is a huge issue.
I don't disagree with that at all. And I'm not saying like if a Civil War II were to happen, all 73 million of Trump's voters would suddenly take up arms and fight for Trump.
No,
Like it'd probably be like a very tiny sliver of a fraction that would actually be like that unhinged about it to do something
I'm also
violent.
yeah, but and I'm also saying this: if a civil war happened, you know that martial law would be issued immediately.
Like I said, National Guard at Walmart.
Right. So
that's what I see happening.
And I don't think you could ever call anything that would happen a civil war, because you are not going to get all of them. All of America doesn't even vote. You're not going to get all of America to like carry arms against somebody else. Like I don't think that'll ever happen.
But you don't think like the stage is set in a way,
No.
being that like we
Not
just
anymore,
talked about this being the worst year in American history?
Not any more than it has been before. I mean, look at like racism. The stage was set for literal decades for there to be a civil war. There was, and and we didn't have any after that, even though it was still happening. It's like, we got it out of our system. Let's go home. And nothing else really happened. And we're still dealing with some of that stupidity today.
Right.
So my point is like, I think that we've come along as a country in a sense where, yes, there's always going to be groups. There's always going to be violence. Civil war, that is like, when you say, maybe clarify it for me. When you say the stage is set, what do you think? What do you mean by that?
By that, what I mean is like a very significant loss in life by the hands of.
I mean, what is the stage has been set?
Where tempers and emotions are higher than they've ever been on many of these very highlighted issues.
What, on like social media? Is that what you're meaning?
Well, social media just fuels the fire, because social media is literally like engineered to create arguments.
Right.
And so that just kind of like fuels the fire in a sense. So I think that plays a very awful part. But when I say the stage is set, what I mean by it, and social media is just like another way for these groups to organize.
Yeah.
So and have pissing matches with each other or whatever, or have these calls to action. So when I picture this civil war, I don't like see it like, okay, everybody on the upper half or the left side of the country is going to wear red or black, and everyone on the right side is going to wear red, and you're going to have like the Antifa versus the MAGA.
Right.
Like what I think is going to happen is you're going to have groups develop, and you're going to have squabbles.
Well, yeah.
And
that's already happening.
How many squabbles does it take before you call it a civil war?
But that's happening though.
I know, but I'm talking about like a bigger scale.
I don't know. What does that mean?
I don't know. Like where there's like a very significant loss in life,
because
where we call it more than like if these groups formed up and they actually started taking militant action against other groups with on American soil, like how many lost lives before you would say, okay, this is a war now, or what are we going to call this? Civil War II, or are we just going to call this the faction squabble of 2020?
Well, I mean, there have been faction squabbles forever. I mean, you have gangs and
whatever is brewing. I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And I'm not just talking about like COVID getting worse before it gets better. I mean like actual like person on person.
COVID's
violence.
Just adding to everything.
And well, yeah, I mean, like I said, that's just one more ingredient.
Right.
on top of everything else, the racial issues,
Right.
the like the gender issues. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I haven't followed that one in a little bit, but there was
What the
like
gender issues?
well, yeah, I know it's still like an issue in a lot of people's minds, but
Yeah.
like where they were trying to introduce legislation, like you
Mhm.
have to say these words.
Oh no, that was
That's like
No.
dead. Pretty
no,
much.
That's impossible. How? What are you gonna do?
Well, I know it's stupid. You can't tell people what they
No.
have to say.
And here's the thing:
There's people that were like serious about
if you're
that.
not respecting someone, that's a huge issue.
Right. But you can't make people say certain words.
Well, that's impossible to do it, because if you sat over there and said my pronouns are not him and he, how am I ever going to know it unless I mess up first?
Well, right. You'd have to like learn this sheet of all these different
But
pronouns.
you couldn't get it ever right. You
I
couldn't get it
know,
right
I
because you
know.
wouldn't know what the pronouns were.
I know. Why are you
That-
yelling at me? I
No.
agree. We're on
Yeah, I
on
know.
the same team.
My point is,
It's
I don't
ridiculous.
think that was, once again, I don't think that was ever a real thing that was going to happen. It was a small voice given a big voice,
Yeah.
and everybody freaks out about it. And then all the Christian moms text each other and say how crazy it is.
Yeah.
No.
So that one seems to thankfully is
yeah.
like not taken
I
seriously.
just don't think. Now look, like I watched this
it's
on
just
Netflix.
we're willing to fight about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Is like what's ridiculous, and it just kind of like lowers my faith in humanity.
Right.
Like when that kind of shit happens.
I'll give you an example of like a transgender thing. It just blows me away every single time I watch or hear or read anything about it. So there's a show on Netflix called Champions. It's like very fun to watch. And it's all about like people winning things that are just like not sports. So like the first one was like this place in England where they roll this cheese wheel down a hill, and the first person down the hill
Oh yeah, I know that one.
is. Did you watch that at all?
Yeah. I mean, like I've watched clips of it. Yeah.
No, I mean, did you watch the show? It's like a 45-degree or more than a 45-degree hill, and like it's just a fun watch because it's so weird.
Yeah.
So the second episode is about people eating chili peppers, like the actual pepper. And so they go on this thing, and this guy who literally made the Carolina Reaper, the hottest pepper known to man at this point, wanted to do like a competition. So he invited all these people that like claimed to be like, I can eat any pepper type of thing.
Right.
And one of the women is a transgendered. And she said in the thing, and it's just like it's one of those statements that take me back, that as a straight white male in America, like I don't think about, I take it for granted for sure. And it was, she got up on stage and lasted through most of the rounds. But then this guy started bringing out like peppers that have never been shown to the world before, because he hasn't like perfected them yet through crossbreeding. So they were hotter than the Carolina Reaper. The Carolina Reaper was like 1.6 million on the Scoville scale. A jalapeno is like 30,000 or 300,000 or something like that on the Scoville scale. So if you think jalapenos are hot, it's a joke. He brought out.
If you think jalapenos are odd, you're a pussy.
Listen, he brought out peppers that topped out at like 2.6 million on the Scoville scale. That's over 1 million hotter than the hottest known pepper. And so like
1 million hotter than the
Yeah.
hottest known
yeah,
pepper.
and these people eating like 2 at a
1
time.
million hotter than the jalapeno.
No, the jalapeno is like 300,000.
So
The hottest pepper, listen, the hottest pepper right now is the Carolina Reaper, I think. And it was 1.2 million. So that's 1 million hotter than the jalapeno units. He brought the last pepper he brought out, he called like the Giant Reaper or something like that. And that was 2.6 million, not 1.6. So that was 1 million or over 1 million hotter than the Carolina Reaper.
Okay, I didn't know
So-
if it meant 1 million times more or 1 million like
Scoville units. I don't know what the
Okay.
but anyway, so
I was gonna say that.
This-
Damn, that's
this-
really pushing it.
well, like
I mean-
people said they couldn't feel their face
Yeah.
or hands. Like the one guy came off stage and he was like, I'm hallucinating. I don't know what's going on. Because heat, when you eat hot stuff, like hallucinogenic effects
Yeah.
if you go hard enough into it. But
Try some of that sauce I got on the shelf over there. That'll give you some hallucinogenic.
what did you
effects.
say was in that?
I have no fucking idea, but
Wasn't-
it nearly killed
I
me.
think it was a Carolina Reaper. You want to taste it on air?
Well, get the bottle. I do not
I have
fucking
a-
want to taste that on air. If you want to, I'd be more than happy to sit here and watch you do it. But I splashed that shit all over a crab cake I had and just took a casual bite of it like it wasn't going to
Okay,
do anything.
let me get to my
It
point.
nearly fucking killed me.
So this woman, I can't for the life of me, I can't remember her name. She's transgender, and she makes the statement, I love like this community that I saw today just because they accept me for who I am. And it was just one of those statements that like took me back, and it's like, man, I do take that for granted for sure, because I don't have to worry about like, I don't worry about what people think about me in general to a fault anyway. But like, if I was a transgender person, like you would have to consistently be concerned about what people are thinking about you or how they're taking you or how they're showing, you know, their side of the story to you. And it was just like, to me, it was once again, it's like, for God's sake, like, why can't we just treat people like people?
Right.
We are all the freaking same. There is no difference between me and you. We have different like our minds are different. Our bodies feel and react different. Like, but that doesn't mean that you're any better or any worse than me. It's just like, it's flabbergastingly simple when I say it like that. But like, as you grow up and all, you know, your beliefs are solidified and the lines are drawn hard in the sand of, you know, if you go past this point, this is what you are, or this and that. It's just like, my God.
Right.
And I think what 2020 has done has shown like the darker sides of that in America, or maybe in the world, but you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I follow you. And a lot of people just being like as the saying or the verse goes.
Is this habanero? I thought there was something else in this.
I don't know. I haven't picked up the bottle since it nearly blew my head off a few months ago. I don't remember exactly what it is, but this hot sauce was a gift from a groomsman that I did a wedding for. And he's like, well, he gave me a little gift bag and this hot sauce was in it. And damn, it's the hottest hot sauce I've ever had in my life. But anyway, as the saying goes, idle hands are the devil's workshop. So you think about like all the people that are out of work, like, and people that have nothing to do are like invariably going to end up in some kind of trouble. Wouldn't you agree?
What?
Someone that has like absolutely not. If you
I
need
just
milk,
put some of that hot sauce in my mouth. Just give me a second.
yeah, I knew that. That shit's going to be a little rough on you.
Oh,
We-
hang up.
If you need to end the
Ugh.
podcast now, we can. But
just keep talking.
anywho,
Oh,
so
God.
how much of that did you have? Like a dot?
No, I covered-
Isn't it brutal? For those of you just listening, Alex took a finger drop. Like I think the circumference of this drip he had was like the size of a pea, and he just wiped it on his tongue. And I think he was going to try to sit there in the chair and act all badass, like it didn't bother him for the next hour or however long we were going to be doing this. But now he's in the bathroom with his head in the toilet. I can hear the echo, so I know his head's in that bowl. But anyway, like I was saying, right now a lot of people are out of work. And like I was tying in with the idle hands are the devil's workshop, it just makes me think that people are going to be with nothing to do, and with gyms closed in this state and a lot of fitness programs being canceled, people are going to resume addictions that they had, or they're going to start all new ones. And it's a recipe for disaster. And I think it's one of those statistics that you don't see on the media scoreboards. But I mean, what happens to a population when they aren't getting their exercise and they aren't getting outside and they aren't working? All they do is sit on Twitter and on Facebook and watch the news and just get inundated with this hate fuel that they're going to use. They're going to take out on the person next to him because they voted for Biden and I voted for Trump. I don't know. It's getting weird. It's getting really weird. Inauguration Day is coming up. I wonder if that will be uneventful. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it, otherwise we'll be under the microscope.
Well, there's stuff already coming out that it's not going to happen for what day is that?
Oh, I don't know. It's like January 4th or 14th. I don't know. I'm going to sound like a retard trying to guess. But I don't know. It's like there's people out there that are so nutty. It's like they're not going to let something like this get by without some kind of action being taken place. You're right there? Yeah. What happened in there?
I peed.
Fire?
No, I just had to pee.
Oh, it sounded like you were in there having yourself a good old time with the toilet.
So the
puking lava.
it's hot.
Yeah, it is.
I
They give you that must be like a lifetime supply. Because you can't even handle like a drip of that. Hardly.
well, I covered like this part of my finger and just put it on my tongue. My throat, like, so I have asthma or lingering asthma from childhood, and it has literally closed my throat up.
Don't die on me in the middle of the podcast. I'm starting to run out of things.
Honestly, I know this sounds ridiculous, but it's not as hot as I thought it was going to be. I can actually take that heat. The taste was actually okay. The lingering effect is what is something special. Like I can't feel the roof of my mouth.
Yeah.
My tongue is on fire still.
Yeah. That's the big problem there.
That was pretty instant.
You think you've gotten over it, and then it just comes right back at you, burning the roof of your mouth off. I had to like hold my tongue under the faucet for like 5 or 10 minutes and then just keep drinking milk, sloshing the milk around.
Well, unfortunately, I can't drink milk. So.
Oh, you'd really be fucked, yeah.
I'd have to get some oat milk from the house.
Yeah. Well, glad you didn't die.
Well, if anybody's interested, Da Bomb Beyond Insanity Hot Sauce.
Sounds like it really cleared your sinuses. If you need to clear those sinuses, get yourself a bottle. Da Bomb.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what those people did on that show. I wonder.
Does it have that scale on there?
Probably not.
You should look it up. We got to find that out.
We'll keep talking on.
Because I want to know like how that compares to the hottest sauce in the world, or this whatever kind of pepper you were just talking about.
Right. We'll keep talking.
Well, all right.
Talk about another subject or something.
Well, to take it back to 9/11,
You'll go.
Let's just pick on one of these cheery topics we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I think the reason America was able to unify so much during that time is because the enemy of America was clear, like in the eyes collectively of the country. Like we were attacked by these extremists from another country, and we can just put like all of our hate on them.
Right.
Whereas this coronavirus is like, okay, this isn't something we can like get mad at because it's not a conscious being. It's just this thing that exists. So who can we blame? Well, who's been mishandling it? Like, why is there over 300,000 dead bodies here? Who dropped the
I'm sorry to
ball?
interrupt you, but I grossly mistold you about like what a jalapeno is on the Scoville level. Jalapenos pepper measure from 2,500 to 8,000.
Okay. Were you right about the 1 million?
Yeah, because I remember that. The Carolina Reaper was like 1.2 million or 1.3 or something up there.
What does Buffalo Wild Wings use? That Ghost Face Killa?
Ghost pepper? That's wicked hot.
Yeah, what's that on there?
Well,
you used to get that at a
to
Ruger's.
answer your question, Jalapeno Scoville levels 2,500 to 8,000. The Da Bomb Beyond Insanity hot sauce is anywhere from 50,000 to 250,000.
So that ain't shit compared to that.
No, that's really hot compared to a jalapeno, but
Yeah, but compared
it's
to that other
potentially
thing-
only almost a quarter of as hot to a Carolina Reaper.
Jesus. And then that thing that guy engineered was twice as hot as that.
Yep.
People are crazy.
My body acted the most ridiculous way I've ever felt. I instantly started to hiccup.
Just now from this?
Yeah, did you not see me? I was right here.
Well, I wasn't really paying attention to your mouth.
Ghost pepper Scoville.
That's like some serious hot sauce.
Okay. Ghost peppers range in heat from 855,000 to 1,041,000. So just over a million. So ghost peppers kind of go up to Carolina Reaper level.
Okay. Because when Arugas was still open, I think I did that.
RIP.
Well, their sign was still lit. Why would the sign, the Arugas title sign?
Because it still has electricity in it.
I would think if they were closed, the sign would be out.
The building I mean, that could be something stupid like a township rule.
Oh.
Like if the building's there, the lights are on or something.
It gave me a little bit of hope. Like, yeah,
Like up
they're still
here, right
open.
here, is like hot.
Yeah.
Nothing touched here.
You got like a fire Hitler staff.
I guess.
But they used to do those challenges where you can you eat a dozen or 2 dozen wings in a certain amount of time, get a free T-shirt, and the wings are for free.
Right.
I tried doing that once. I failed miserably. But my brother Dan, what he would do is he would take all the meat off the bones and he would just crush it into a big pile
And just shove it
and
in.
just shove that whole pile
Yeah.
into it and swallow it as fast as possible.
That's how these people were doing the peppers eating. They so the craziest part about it is each round was 2 peppers of whatever round it was. So like when they ate the Carolina Reaper, it was 2 of them. So what they would do is just like bite it off real quick and then shove the other one in and just like sit there with their eyes closed and chew it. But it's just so insane.
Funny, like if you imagine that hard enough, like that's the thing with sour food,
Yeah.
or spicy stuff. If I think too hard about spicy or especially sour, I actually start to feel a reaction happening.
Yeah.
Like my fucking saliva glands or something in my eyes. I can actually feel a little water building up in my eyes if I think too hard about like fire sauces or really sour tasting things. It's kind of weird how I can literally conjure the taste up in my mouth from nothing. But like I'm not just imagining it really hard. It like
Your brain is
something is
powerful.
actually being produced that I can taste, like
Right.
this soury taste in my mouth.
Well, one of the smell and taste are like linked, and smell is one of the strongest memories, or like
Still smell that fart from earlier?
memory inducing things. I guess smell is.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I didn't smell it at all.
Oh, never got to
You
you.
ruined a whole bit. I'll never be able to do that again.
Well, maybe it's still stuck under the table.
It's gonna crawl up under.
I thought when you backed up out of the chair, you released it.
No. Yeah, that was insanely hot. That was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that someone else has tried it now who understands.
It's just it's like habanero peppers, and that's like all it is. It's like chipotle puree. Let's see how hot a habanero is.
Why do people do this to themselves? Why is this like?
I have no
Why
idea.
is this a thing? Who just grabs a bottle of that and it's like, I'm gonna splash this on my my fucking crab cake? Well, I mean, I did it, but I thought it was just gonna be like your regular Texas Pete.
Oh, so habanero is
Yeah, I was
100,000 to 350,000 straight. It is.
I just don't know why you'd want to make yourself that.
Oh,
uncomfortable.
here's a complete scale. So a bell pepper is 0. That's the 0 of the scale.
Bell pepper pussy.
Bell pepper. You go to jalapeno, it's 2,500 to 8,000. Tabasco pepper, 30,000 to 50,000. Got a habanero, 100,000 to 350,000. You got like ghost pepper, 855,000 to 1.04 million. And then the Trinidad scorpion pepper, 1.2 to 2 million. And then the Carolina Reaper can be anywhere from 1.4 to 2.2.
How much does it take to kill a man?
Why that show honestly should have killed somebody.
Like, can you actually have that number be so high that it literally kills them? That's lethal.
Well, it's a heat rating. So
yeah,
it's not,
but
I don't know.
could there be like a response your body has where it's just like, holy shit, I'm shutting you down because we can't take this? Oh, just turns your computer off.
Pepper spray used by police is above Carolina Reaper.
No
That's
shit.
5.3.
And they get that in your eyes.
Yep.
Ooh, that's nasty. Yeah, see? People don't like being sprayed in the face.
Jeez.
You get enough of that going on, people are going to get real mad.
Capsaicin, substance contained in chili peppers that irritates mammal tissue. 16 million. And then there's one. Oh, here's okay. On this scale, bell pepper is at a neutral. And then Carolina Reaper is at dangerous. And then harmful is the capsaicin, and then there's one called like resinin ferrotoxin. That is a molecule found in resin spurge, a plant native to Morocco.
Here, I'm holding it up to the camera. There you go.
Whoa. Take a guess at what that resin ferrotoxin is on the Scoville scale, with pepper spray being at 5.3 million.
What? Okay.
So the Carolina Reaper is 1.5-ish.
And this is more than that?
Mm-hmm. It's the highest thing. It's the highest end of the harmful scale.
2.4?
15 billion.
What? This is a pepper?
No, this is a molecule found in resin spurge, a plant native to Morocco.
And where's the pepper spray compared to that? Below?
Oh, yeah. The pepper spray is only 5.3 million.
And this
so
is
this
what?
is 15 billion.
Billion with a B.
Yeah.
That would...
I had to look at it for a couple minutes.
It has to be death.
Yeah. It's, I mean, can you imagine accidentally eating that plant? Being like, what was this? Is that okay?
Because if this sauce puts my head under the sink for a half hour in agony...
Well, that's a little dramatic.
And police spray has you like, oh, like holding your eyes and rolling in the road screaming in pain, then a billion is like way fucking bigger of a number than a million. I don't think people like really realize how much bigger a billion is than a million.
It's
like,
joke.
It's huge. Like one of these YouTube videos recently, like put it into context for me. It was like 1 million seconds ago was World War II was taking place.
Right.
But 1 billion seconds ago, like America was being discovered,
right,
or something. And then like 1 trillion seconds ago, we were Neanderthals.
Right.
I might have like those.
That's because
it's something like that.
On paper, it just looks like a couple zeros. But what people don't understand is the difference between those numbers is like you can't fathom it, honestly.
Right.
That's why people like look at Jeff Bezos and he's got his billions, and like there's no point in most people's life where they will understand the amount of money that they have. They just see the number as like, oh, he's rich. No, what you don't understand is he could buy $4 million houses and never know that he lost money,
right,
or spent money. He could buy that $100 million yacht and never see a difference in his lifestyle ever.
Literally every 5 seconds that ticks by, he makes like a college tuition.
Yeah, it's more money than some people make in their lifetime.
Right. He like makes more than a doctor in their whole life in the span of like
like
seconds, a half hour.
Minutes, yeah.
Something like
ridiculous. Well, we rabbit
That
trailed there a little
yeah,
bit.
that Jeff Bezos is a rich guy. Well, yeah, that's the point of these. But
So to go back to the original like December 2020 thing, I guess. Let's lighten things up.
I guess we were trying to
a little bit.
predict the future
Yeah.
a little bit.
So the struggle. I just swallowed and got some more of that in my mouth.
Congratulations.
So the struggle this past month is trying to get consoles.
That is the first
This
world
this is
problem of
this
the
is
year.
a lighter conversation, I guess.
Difficult decisions this year.
Yeah.
It's like you got to pick a president, you got to pick a console.
I don't think anybody's going to end up and pick a president. It's going to end up in Congress or whatever. Where that's what everybody's saying now. That it's not even going to be January whatever when we find out. It's going to be like 3 or 4 weeks after that, because it's going to go to Congress where every state counts as one vote.
Counts as one vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it goes on for so long or whatever, then there's like, I'm gonna butcher this because I barely know anything about it, but so like Pennsylvania has 20 electoral college votes, right? So there's a point where it hits where like there's been like 6 or 7 states that have like issued whatever they've issued, basically negating things so they can't move on. So then what it'll come down to is that like Congress votes as a whole and each state represents one vote, and that's it. So you can't have like 3 states deciding, with their big number of votes like the election. So every state will get one vote. A lot of people are thinking that that's how Trump's going to win the election because it's gone that far.
Oh, I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah. You'll have to look it up, or we'll look it up afterwards.
So all 50 states are going to get together, and each of them has
What's
one
in
vote
Congress?
in there.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, wow.
It's like if
This world moves too goddamn fast to keep track of anything that happens. I'm like always.
I don't know anything.
You're either uninformed or you're misinformed.
Right. No, like what happened now or yesterday was like the state voted again and gave all of the votes, so the 20 votes to Biden.
Okay.
And according to right now, Biden looks like he has won it again, or for the third time, whatever people are saying.
He won the media version.
Right. So, but
the official version.
But nothing is actually official until later on, I guess. But then I read an article today saying that if it goes to Congress, then it's one vote per state. So it's 50 votes that each candidate could get. And whoever wins that, I don't know.
Wow, it's just nuts.
I don't claim to be an expert. It's confusing.
If the election doesn't get overturned, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people. And imagine if it did get overturned, there'd be a lot of pissed off people.
Oh yeah, it'd be pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah. That's why it's all uncharted territory. So,
but
who knows?
What's some good things that happened?
Well, we were just talking about it. It will be a good thing when their PS5 and Xbox Series X arrives. You're getting the Xbox Series X. I'm going to start off with the PS5. Eventually, we'll both get the other.
You're going to miss out on so much fun.
You're going to miss out on a great controller.
It's debatable.
You can still come over and try it. We can try it. That's the beauty of it. We can try. We'll both get to try each other's thing.
Yeah, if I hate the Xbox for some reason, I'll
pick up that Xbox eventually. We'll get there. I'll get that simple Xbox.
Right.
Simple looking thing. Simple fridge.
So that's something that is exciting that's happened this year.
Right now I'm playing the PlayStation 2 because it's the most up-to-date console that I have available to myself right now. There's a Switch over there, but I have like one game for it, so that doesn't count. So my PlayStation 4 went blub blub in a basement flood. So that is unavailable. Doesn't work when it's waterlogged. So
Did you try it?
I did. I actually gave it to the guy in my neighborhood who is a computer wizard. Like, if it has anything to do with a computer, he's your guy. If he can't fix it, no one can.
And he's like, this was underwater.
He's like, this is fucked. So I was like, well, if you say it's fucked, then I guess it's fucked.
Right.
So I've been playing some retro PS2 games. Like, I went through all the Grand Theft Auto, and by all the Grand Theft Autos, I mean GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. And when I say I went through them, I mean I got as far as I possibly can before it was so goddamn
Irritating,
infuriatingly hard. I could not do it. I'm going to try to remember the missions from each one that hung me up.
Oh God.
And
here
see
we
if you
go.
remember them. In GTA 3, I was having a blast with all of these games up until I got like stuck. In GTA 3, it was the mission where you and 8-Ball have to board a cargo ship where those Colombian cartel guys are like protecting something. I forget what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
stealing. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go in just like full assault head first
Right.
or whatever. You go up on the
Yeah.
roof with a sniper and watch my back. It's like impossible.
Right.
Like, 8-Ball gets killed so fast. You have to be like on it. You have to be like Vasily Zaitsev with that sniper. Just boom, go to the next guy. Boom, up there. Boom, boom, and just taking them out. You can't miss.
Right.
And
one things those
couldn't
games
do
were
it.
never really great at is aiming.
The
or anything
controls,
like that. Yeah.
because you'd try to aim your sniper scope, and the crosshairs would be to the left.
Yep.
You try to correct. Go to the right, too far. Go to the left. By that time, 8-Ball's dead. You failed. You got to drive back to 8-Ball's garage and do it
to
again.
pick him up again. Hey, buddy, what's up?
Yeah, I remember he comes out of his trailer. He's like, "Oh, okay, let's do this thing. I got 10 pounds of C4. I got blah blah
Right.
blah."
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, so that's where I got hung up on GTA 3, which something about that game I just have to mention is like, after getting so used to the later GTA titles, going back to GTA 3 felt like I went from literally like having a whole city to myself to being stuck in like a little kitty sandbox.
Oh yeah.
It was so unbelievably tiny. There's like the shipping dock
Yep.
part of the city, and then there's like the downtown area, and that's
it.
like that's it. that's like really it.
Yeah, that was
There's like the cargo dock, the storage areas.
hey man, and at that time that was pretty gigantic.
Yeah, and now granted, you unlock that's 1/3 of the city
Right.
at least, and you unlock more of it later. But anyway,
That's a GTA 3 is when there's like 3 vertical cities, isn't there, or maps?
there's 3 islands.
Yeah, islands. Okay.
Yeah, at the opening cutscene of the game, you actually see your guy in the back of a SWAT van. You're on one of the islands you'll unlock
Right.
later, and then he goes across the bridge, and then that's when like the van flips over and you and
Yeah.
8-Ball get away. My hands are all messed up, so you better
You
drive,
gotta have to
brother.
drive.
What a convenient way to get me used to the controls.
Right.
So then that's as far as I got with GTA 3 on this latest revisit. I remember I never beat that game back in the day either. There was a mission much further in the game. I don't know if I had to guess, I was maybe 80% of the way through.
Yeah.
And it was this mission where you had to go around and destroy these little coffee houses that, once again, it's these cartel guys, because they have like the
Freaking
best
cartel,
guns.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. You had to drive like all over the city, and there was like
Yeah.
a dozen little coffee houses you had to destroy. And I love how like in GTA, every time it's a mission, you just walk in and this person just dumps this impossible task on you, like it's
Right.
just some Tuesday afternoon.
Hey, you're Matt? Well, listen, my niece just got kidnapped by the Yakuza. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly a cargo plane into their truck.
Yeah,
You're going to have to jump out, drive the truck that's mangled. Make sure you don't kill her, all right? You're like, sure.
right. It's always these like ridiculous things, and it's for like these people that are crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
like in San Andreas, you go like, who's that guy? OG Loke. He like works at a Clucking Bell,
Right.
like as a janitor, and he's like giving you these orders and like telling you to kill people. You're
Right.
like, okay.
You're just like, yep,
Yeah.
I'm in the streets now.
And in GTA 3, the payphone rings and you answer it, and it's the
just
guy.
Somebody, yeah.
It's just like, I want you to kill my wife. You don't even say anything. You just hang up, and you go
and you
do
go
it.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get like $500 for that for
Right.
murder.
Right.
It's like, oh, enjoy. You buy yourself a PS5 with that.
Right.
Anyway, I can't get off GTA 3. So Vice City, the mission I got stuck on was oh shit,
Oh yeah.
I can't think of it. I don't know. I think it had something
Suspense
to
is
do.
building.
I think it had to do with you and Lance. Remember Lance Vance?
Vaguely, yeah.
He's like the black dude with the white suit and the purple shirt.
Yeah. Yep.
I think like you and him had to attack Diaz's mansion, and you're in a helicopter and you're like shooting the guys with the 50 cal
I vaguely remember
out
that.
the. No, it wasn't that. I did get past that one. It was the mission. It had to do with Lance Vance, but you had to save him. He was in that junkyard in like a hangar, and he was tied up in a chair, and you had to get through all these gangsters. I forget what kind they were. I think they were Diaz's men, so they were like that like Scarface looking dudes.
Yeah.
You had to like battle through all of them. Yep. And I rescued him from the chair. It was hard enough getting to that part. And then as you're making your way out of there, you get just chased down and run down by all these cars filled with dudes with automatic weapons.
Yeah.
You had to get Lance
It's
to
always
the hospital.
yeah. It's all yeah. It's always the most ridiculous amount of gunfire too.
Yeah. Right before he got to the hospital, it was right across the street.
Right.
Right across the street. And this was like an impossible mission.
Yeah.
But I was about to do it and be done with it, and I'd have moved on with the game.
Yep.
But as we were crossing the street, Lance got hit by a car and he died.
I remember you telling me
Stupidest
about that.
thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. I came so close, and it was very lucky that I was able to get this far. I scraped by barely to this point, and it was like so like anxiety driven.
Yeah.
Just to like get this far, it's like I'm not putting myself through this anymore. So that was the end of that. Then I started playing San Andreas, and I didn't get too far in that game because for whatever reason, like when it's nighttime in that game, it's like impossible to see.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just this TV, but I turned the brightness like all the way up.
I think it was just bad graphic.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Like all of the like dark colors were just crushed down so far.
Yeah.
And it was fun though. Like I was actually having a lot of fun with that game, and then I just turned it off for the night. So I didn't really get hung up on it or stuck on a mission. But anyway, so that's like my PS2 journey as of the past couple of months while waiting for the PS5 to arrive. But my favorite PS2 game, since I'm talking about the PS2, is Deus Ex: The Conspiracy.
Oh God, yeah.
Which that's just the finest game ever. Which I think it was more popular on the PC.
Yeah, probably.
But I always played the PS2 version, and I could make a whole podcast about that game, so I won't get into it. But
Good.
I feel like I've been talking for 20 minutes straight,
It's
babbling
only been,
about
like, 2
GTA.
minutes.
But anyway, so it's going to be cool to take the leap from PS2, which that's always been my most special PlayStation.
Right.
It's just the titles for that game were just amazing.
Yeah, it was that sweet spot in the years.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go from PS2 all of a sudden to PS5, and it's just going to be like, because I've been on this PS2 thing for months. That's all I
Right.
have in the way of video games,
Right.
aside from the awesome Nintendo 64, but those graphics ain't no better.
They're beautiful in a nostalgia way.
Oh yeah, nostalgia's a thing. Like, you can't really compare nostalgia with anything. Like when there's factors that go into like, I'm not gonna get into this rating thing again.
Right.
But when you're talking about nostalgia, like we're talking about watching GoldenEye next.
Yeah.
That is going to be one of the most nostalgic. But just listen to my voice talking about
I
it.
can't wait until you go
I just
to rate
rolled
it
my
because
eyes
you're
back.
like, oh, everything's a 10.
I just rolled my eyes back in my head like I just took a bite of like fucking IHOP pancakes or something. So when we pop in,
Such an odd thing to roll your eyes back for.
oh, this would be so good. We need one of those in
Yeah, we do.
Hanover. but like Goldeneye is just like a super special nostalgic
Yeah.
movie for me. So like it's gonna have you're gonna have a different experience because it wasn't like one of those things that was super special to you growing up.
Yeah. You have this weird like attachment to video to movies sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean, so do
certain
I.
ones specifically. Yeah.
Like where I mean, talk about Star Wars, like the older stuff. It's like I can look past everything, every flaw to say it's like a 10 out of 10. But if I'm like critiquing something, you know, you have to be a little honest with yourself about it. Goldeneye will be the same way. You'll just be like, I can't believe you gave it this.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the score turns out to be because this is what I'm given to work with: rewatchability, story, characters, do you believe it, and creativity. Yeah. So within those, yes, there's going to be an X factor for me, but that'll be excluded.
And that's why like rewatchability is in there because that. Like on the hyper nostalgic stuff, you're gonna that's like gonna be a 9 or 10.
I'll be watching that till the day I die.
Right.
Just like it's Christmas time, so I gotta watch Die Hard again. And I'm not getting into that fucking debate about Die Hard a Christmas movie. I'm so over that. I don't care.
There?
In my mind, yeah, because I watch it every Christmas. It feels like a Christmas movie to me. To me it is.
Is it why do you think you can say yes just because it came out around Christmas? Or it was a Christmas timing time.
Well,
in the
it's set.
movie?
It's set during Christmas,
Right.
and it's very
Gosh, that was so worded ridiculous. Sorry.
It very much in when I'm thinking about the movie Die Hard, it feels like every scene or almost every scene has some kind of like Christmas theme woven into it, whether it's just like little Christmas tunes or decorations in the background or someone making Christmas
Do you remember
references.
when it was released?
88?
No, like time of year.
Oh, I don't know about that, but like it's very heavily woven in there, the Christmas aspect.
Yeah. July 15th, so it wasn't even like near Christmas time when it came out.
Yeah. I mean,
What do you think the argument is for it to not be a Christmas or why do you think that's an argument?
That it's not a Christmas movie?
Yeah, just because it's action.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why it's machine guns and violent and action movie, and it's not like what's the point of the movie's existence to just be madly entertaining? I mean, it's not like is it trying to teach you some deeper meaning or something that like the spirit of Christmas?
Well, that's what all Christmas movies should be.
Yeah, it's like, to be a Christmas movie, it has to somehow have this like sharing this like almost like unknown kind of universal like spiritual theme or message or something. But like, then there's like, oh well, what's the definition of Christmas technically?
Right.
When I think of Christmas, I think of a lot of trees and a lot of pretty lights and snow and Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
Like that, and that kind of shit is all over Die Hard. So, well, I pop it in. I feel like I'm in a Christmas atmosphere, and John McClane cracking Christmas jokes. It's all fucking over the place in that movie. So
maybe that's what we should watch next. Just because
I haven't watched it yet this year, so I'm not gonna turn that one down.
Let's
Die Hard happens every year.
Well, Die Hard.
There it is. It's on the white. Alex is writing Die Hard on the whiteboard.
It's over. It's decided.
Which is our list of movies that we plan to watch in the near future to talk about on the podcast.
Which can always change if you want a movie. So maybe we'll try to do Die Hard next week.
Okay. It'll be a lot of
as
snow
a
on
Christmas
the ground.
movie.
Sure.
We'll post it as our Christmas review.
But if someone comes up to me and they're just like, Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, at this point I'm just be like, okay. To each his own.
Do you think there was a point in your life where you would have argued that?
Yeah, like just because there's a part of me that really likes inciting arguments.
Yeah.
Like very much on like on Xbox, not in person.
Right.
I don't want to incite arguments in person, because that's just like getting physical and that's stupid. And
Right.
who wants to deal with that shit?
Yeah, if anybody knows Matt, go look at any comment ever.
Because it's like there's a certain thing about like confrontation or provoking people that has this really fun side to it. Of course, like on Xbox Live, like Xbox 360,
That's
just
that's
shit talking with
no better
people.
than the factions that are forming
Oh,
in their echo
this
chambers.
this is within the confines of Xbox Live I'm talking about. And it's in the confines within like certain social media groups,
Right.
like because we have to do with wedding videography. And there's some people, not to get too far down this rabbit hole, but let me just say to start off that this wedding group that I'm talking about, I think was brilliantly established by a brilliant person who knew exactly what he was doing, created a really awesome community where people can learn a lot from each other.
Right.
And, there's a lot of good tutorial information and video
Long story short.
stuff, blah, blah, blah. But you got these people mixed in there that really sort of irk me to a major degree.
Now, to play the devil's
And
advocate,
provoking them is
provoking you
a
isn't
pure joy.
quite hard.
No, well, on social media, are you talking about provoking on social media or
Anywhere.
in general?
Because if it's a specific topic, then it's just like boom, you're off.
Yeah, if it's a specific, it depends. So like just today, someone in one of these wedding groups, someone posted something like, do you view yourself or your work as a wedding videographer more as an artistry, or do you view yourself more as like an entrepreneur? Like what, or I guess they're asking, where do your strengths lie?
Right.
And it seemed like half and half. People were like, oh, I'm more of the artistic side. Other people were saying I'm more of the entrepreneurial side.
So the business side of things, yeah.
And then this dude drops in there with, I don't refer to myself as an artist, and I discourage all of my employees from calling themselves artists or any wedding videographers in general. What we should be calling ourselves is craftsmen, as if
Oh my god, the technicality
and this
police
is
have
and this
shown
is
up.
what this motherfucker said. He's like, because wedding films are like producing cabinets. We like an assembly line process.
Oh god.
We shoot the weddings, we assemble them, and we deliver them. As like speaking as if like this is an assembly line factory, cookie cutter
Right.
process. And I'm like, you motherfucker are everything that I hate about this page.
Right.
You people come creeping in here. You have no goddamn inspiration about like you're not a true filmmaker.
Right.
You just come in here because and you want to pick up a camera and shoot weddings because it's better than a real job, which it
Right.
is. But like you have no fucking passion, you have no fucking vision. All you want to do is copy someone else's work, mimic that, and pass it off as your own and make a profit from it. And all you people do all day is just talk about the best way to do that.
Yeah.
Here's the best way to plagiarize everybody and make a killing off of it.
Right.
Well, good for you. So go ahead and churn out your uninspired, vanilla, drabby, undercooked, sleepy.
Why is everybody using the word vanilla all of a sudden?
I love
like,
vanilla.
Like vanilla's supposed to be a bad thing.
I love vanilla.
I don't know one time that I've tasted like something vanilla or vanilla ice cream and been like,
Hey,
oh, it's so vanilla.
I love vanilla as the next guy, but these people, it's just like, when they're coming up with their recipe, it's just like, oh, this is like every single one. It's just like the same,
But I like vanilla ice cream. I'd be okay with that.
Okay,
In
well
context.
then take vanilla out of it.
See how easy it is for me to provoke you. I got him.
But what you end up with at the end of the day is this simple-minded dog shit.
Right.
That is coming from a place that where like exists almost no passion or very little passion. Right. And I think like if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you want to cling it to something, there's things to do that for. But when people like come into the video industry and they want to cling their entrepreneurship
Right.
onto something like video, and then just like completely neglect the creative side of it, or tell other people like you shouldn't even attribute artistry into this industry at all because it has nothing to do with it.
Right.
It's like if that's the kind of filmmaker you want to be, then I think you're going to get burnt out, after a year or two or three. And we can think of a few of those people,
Right.
because they're more about like
I was gonna say
they're more
because-
about the social media presence,
Right.
Or
or
their
just like
position in the hierarchy.
yeah, and we met other people that said, you know, that the industry is really tough because there's so many people, blah blah blah, doing this type of stuff. And the issue is it's all the same. It's all the cookie cutter stuff, like you said. And maybe not devil's advocate, but to shine like the silver lining on that stuff is, I think some of, if not most of our success has become or has come from us not doing that. And because there are so many people that do the manufactured cookies cutter stuff, that we have actually stood out.
Yeah.
So to have the silver lining there, if I would comment on that post, I would have been like, hey man, you do you. And we benefit from the weird flair that we have.
Right.
Not that we're anything special or better than that. I mean, our opinion of it is our opinion, and we hate the cookie cutter feel of things.
Yeah, I just think like when you have that kind of attitude, the kind of audience you're going to get is the kind that checks out. Like
Yeah.
maybe your client will love it, and that's what that's where it
what
really
matters, yeah.
counts. Yeah, and that's all well and good, but it just sucks when like there's so much when something has so much more potential and it falls by the wayside because someone just isn't feeling creative, or they're
Right.
not feeling inspired. They'd rather not put the time into it that
Right.
that it deserves. That's what annoys me, and especially when they try to like tell everyone else like, oh, you should play it this way too.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, suck a dick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's with everything. It goes back to the boxes thing. Everybody wants to have like, this is the way to do things, and it's the correct way because it works for me. Which, my opinion on it is that, like, if you have a single state, like United States of America state, and say there's 100 videographers or photographers, whatever you want to use for this example, and everybody does the same thing, there's only so much time before people get really, really tired of that.
Yeah.
So all it takes is for one or two people to do something very, very different to start a new wave of like, this is like the standard, or this is what's cool now. And then everybody starts copying that. And then it only takes so long until the cycle like turns over. We're just, I think, in this really weird time period of like a very specific look and feel going on. And man, it's just, we don't love it. Some of them, I mean, they're great in like a very specific aspect. And
The ones that focus on the couple and their story, and you actually can get to know the couple and feel an emotional connection to them, like those
Right.
are the ones that I applaud.
right.
And there are ones that do that make the couple the central focus. But then you have this whole other cluster of them over here, like it seems like the majority, and the running joke is, wedding films all feel the same. Is because, like you said, there's just this formula and this, and like I was saying, it's like this plagiarism mentality.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we're talking about wedding films, so after you and I make 30 of them in a year, 35, they're not all necessarily going to be like this
Like
home
super,
run,
yeah.
submit it to Sundance, knock it out of the park. There's going to be some ones that maybe they do feel formulaic or whatever, because
Right.
not every wedding is this
The same,
grand,
yeah.
elaborate event. Some couples
Well,
are very quiet people, and you don't have much to work with. But my God, if you do, if you have like this opportunity for rich content and you neglect that, or you just don't include it as it's not part of your formula, or
Right.
or you neglect like who the couple actually is, or all these like fun opportunities that are missed. It's just such a
Right.
goddamn shame.
Well, the thing
Um,
that sucks too is like, we attempt every single video, because both of us edit or at least touch the video to some extent. Um, the attempt is there at least 100% of the time to make each video kind of like the couple shine through. So when you watch a video, oh, that's so and so's video because that felt a lot like them. Like
Right.
that's the reaction, that's the gut reaction we want from people. And some of these other videos, it's just kind of like, I have no idea who these people were.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know anything about them. It was just, it was what it was, which
Yeah.
is that like produced thing. And some people love that. Some people really like the movie-esque quality about it. I just know at the end of the day, I think I speak for both of us and say I would be kind of disappointed in a certain extent, at least if I was that couple.
Mhm.
And I mean, and that's why there are different videographers, because you can choose different things, different styles. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It just it frustrates me when well, I guess I've already kind of said all of this, but it's very apparent when you're watching these films. You can tell which ones which ones are actually interested in the craft and
right,
which ones are in this just so they can rise up the hierarchy in the group,
right,
or get a I guess it's just all about the numbers, or who you're in with,
right,
or your position. It's like it's like that's where their real passion lies, in
yeah,
the in the numbers and in the exposure and in the follow my channel and the profiles and all that, like. And yeah, that's all well and good and everything, but when it's just when I'm watching a video and I'm just like, okay, you're just copying from the guy that you
idolize
from
now.
the cool kid
Right,
in the group,
right,
you know then that's where it gets annoying. That's where like I gotta check out. And ultimately, like, I know social media is not it isn't good for me. I would say, like, for humanity, I don't think it's good for humanity, at least not in the way that it's been engineered to have people just getting in fights with each other. But oh, one of our camera's batteries is dying. Oh no. Swap it out. Swapping mag. Uh, what thought was I just making?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You stopped to talk about me.
Did I? But whatever the thought was, I was going with.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I remember now. Social media. I ultimately, like, if I had to just ask myself the bold question of, is social media good for you or is it bad for you?
Oh God.
Like,
question, huh?
to ask myself that question personally, I'd say it's bad for me,
Right.
because the feeling that I have after I'm done using it is worse
Right.
than I felt a few minutes before using it. And it's that way every time. Yet
Right.
go right back to it.
Right.
Because it's like addicting. It's like you get that rush of dopamine or
Yeah.
whatever. You post something, people like it or they comment
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
It's like, ooh, the world notices me.
Right.
They notice I'm here. They have something to say. Like, I must be relevant. I must
Right.
be. I must offer something
Yeah,
that
right.
somebody cares about.
Yeah, and it just overall, it just kind of,
Yeah.
And
then, not to mention all the news that's constantly pouring in from so many different voices all at once.
yeah,
And then me, like, just ranting about these people in these wedding groups. Like, I know all of that's, like, ultimately not good for me.
right,
And ultimately I don't think it's good for anybody. Depending on how you use it. Sure, if you're just like staying connected with friends or
Yeah.
just networking. But like
Yeah.
for people that have for people like me that can get like sucked into these like arguments and things, I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
yeah, these people are stupid and I want to smack them, but
right.
what good is it going to do me to argue with
I mean,
retards?
Yeah, I mean, throwback to like the beginning days of the Thex films. I remember a comment that we got on a video that's no longer up, and Matt just within seconds was like on the computer typing this thing out, posting, and I was like, you have to take that down. But
Was that
that was the
on the
Mortal
Lucky?
Kombat.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
We did like a Mortal Kombat music video, and someone like the first comment, like someone hated it or something.
yeah, and you were like, God,
Yeah, whatever I said.
But no, because like I mean, it's kind of like you said, social media. If it's used correctly, I think you're never going to replace it. Like the world would be simpler without it. But on it's kind of like a double-edged sword. The ability for groups to get together and connect and like grow and flourish is like beyond cool to me.
Yeah, that's great.
But
like that's good.
In the same sense, it also means groups can come together, grow, and flourish. And you have that's why it's a double-edged sword, because some of these groups are awesome. They're almost necessary for people to survive and just connect. And then other groups are not great, and more hate-filled or just like turmoil-filled. And if you're not careful, like you said, you can just get sucked into that world of just like confusion. It's almost like being in like a washing machine. You're just getting turned over by one thing after another, and it's just like, good Lord.
I kind of feel like, and it's like I can't put all the blame on social media itself, like because I think the blame has to go to the individual. Like my inability to properly deal with Facebook. And I'm not saying like I regret calling these motherfuckers because they are, but what that does to me at the end of the day just kind of makes me feel worse calling these certain people what they are. But that's just like one negative aspect. Like I said, there's just the inundation of bad news pouring onto social media from all different directions. But in speaking about myself, like, would it be better just not to have one? Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be better if I just didn't have one. But because we're like operating a business, like in that capacity, well, it's necessary for me to keep it.
Yeah.
Although I would like to just.
Well, and another issue that does kind of suck to most extent is with society moving towards like all technology based stuff, or just like pushing hard into that, it's harder and harder to connect with people outside of that.
Yeah.
So like, you know, whatever it is, whatever you're doing in life, if you're communicating with your friends or if you're trying to spend time with them, if you're trying to like, imagine COVID without technology. That would be another level of suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then there's like no option to do. Then you're literally at your home with your family. Then there's nothing to do. You know, that's like old school. You got to figure something out.
I'd be down with those board games. You don't need to plug those in.
Right.
But like, I don't know. When I think of social media, it kind of makes me think about being in your car and driving around somewhere that's really frustrating to try to get around.
Right.
Because on Facebook, there's like this level of detachment because you can't really see people's faces.
Right.
Other than just like a very doctored up picture of them.
Right.
But there's such a level of detachment there, and that exists too, like when you're driving on the road.
Yep.
So it's just a bunch of faceless cars.
Yep.
It's not actually a person I'm getting pissed at or I'm road raging out
that
on.
Car
it's
there.
this inanimate fucking object, this box that's in my way, or these thousands of boxes. I wish Godzilla would just come out of the mountains and just start eating cars just to get them out of my way. but that's because like I don't actually see like a person. I just see this object.
Right.
And with Facebook, it's like yeah, we know that that's like a person on the other end of the computer, but
Right.
still at the same time, it's like it's just a profile, and we're all like kind of protected on our side of the computer or our screen names, and
Right.
it's kind of like what you hear about like why there's this United States launches drone strikes
Right.
all the time, right?
Right.
How many of those do they actually kill their intended targets? Like, again, I'm not like really involved with this at all,
I
so
don't know the
I can't.
statistics, but
But
I would assume it's pretty high.
the point is that oftentimes, I think the majority of times, like the unintended target is killed,
Well,
like
yeah, of
like an
course.
innocent person.
Yeah.
So there's like, how come people don't flip out about that?
Because it's
It's like
they're
this
detached.
Yeah, it's like this
from it.
video game. You're
Yeah.
flying, it's onto a screen, and the screen goes to white noise because the
Right.
missile just hit its target, and nobody cares. Someone just got blown
Right.
up on the other side of the world. Who cares?
Right.
It's not this like boots on the ground, face to face thing. But yeah, I'm just speaking of like level of detachments. I'm not actually like involved in these things or whatever, but I'm just kind of spitballing here.
Yeah.
That when you remove that human element and you replace it with words with text on a
Right.
screen, there's just, I want to say, so much is lost, but in a sense, everything is lost.
Well, yeah. So the issue that I see with it is when you take out the human aspect of communication, you lose pretty much everything. Can you put this battery in that one next to you? Yeah. You lose pretty much everything because honestly, it's like me and you sitting here because I can look at your face and talk to you and get your reactions physically and emotionally, like connect with those without you even having to say anything. You're just reacting to my, talking or my face or blah, blah 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 blah. So it's just like when you take that all away and then you give someone a bio that they can read, and then you know what I mean? Like you go to my Facebook page and I have a bio and it says, I worked here and this is what I like and this is what I'm about and I'm married to this person and these are my friends." And you can like build this weird idea or like structure of that person without ever knowing them, without ever meeting them, without ever talking to them. And then the communication is all based off of that weird structure. That one just died. Oh no, it didn't. Never mind. So it's all based off of this like odd structure that that's just kind of there. So when you lose that, you lose all of that like that freshness of humanity, like where, if you meet someone for the first time, you get to see their reaction, you get to see their physical like ticks and all this kind of like human connection.
Tone
because
of voice,
yeah,
body posture.
because what did I say before? It's like human communication is only like 3% verbal,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. You lose all of that, which means you're riding on 3% of communication when you're online,
Right.
which is horrible. Like obviously there's going to be issues with that.
Yeah. Everything will get misconstrued.
Right. So whenever you have that form of like, I'm communicating, like we briefly talked earlier, when you like texting back and forth, like my analytical mind can go crazy trying to figure out what you mean in that text message, but maybe all you mean is literally what you wrote. Now I could pick up all that stuff if I was face to face with you, but unfortunately it's text.
Yeah.
Or it's a message, or it's a, whatever.
Right. It's like this whole nother language that's been
Yeah.
created. Like you have to put in the right emojis or else
Right.
someone's going to misconstrue what
Well,
you meant.
see, and this is the weird part about like our generation is like we've picked up in that the beginning of this, like when Ezekiel is old enough, or like his kids are old enough, they're never going to have this issue. Like we're the struggle generation of this creation in a
Glad to be
sense.
here.
But you know, they'll be used to it in a violently different way.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's just so odd to me.
Yeah. And it's like it's only growing more and more towards that, and it's just going to become more and more the norm.
Right.
And people already communicate with their fellow kin or fellow man or whatever you want to fucking call it, their friends or whoever, mostly through this new language, this text form. Like, wouldn't you say that, like, that's most of how our conversation happens now? It's not in person. It's like if you get a new girlfriend, most of your conversation or getting to know them, although I don't think it should be this way and I don't want it to be this way, happens through the text message.
Right.
It's like I want to save getting to know you for in person so I get the full experience.
Right. And that's just not how society is moving.
Yeah.
Because like even phone calls, the best thing about phone calls is you can hear the person. So you could hear the small adjustments in their voice or the inflection or, you know, the timidness, the anger. You could hear that emotion behind it.
Right.
You can't hear any of that. You know, you could probably tell if I'm lying to you if you could hear my voice or see my face.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be almost impossible to do it over some words on a phone.
Yeah.
You know,
fact check.
Right.
Yeah. I just think like ultimately it becomes such a waste of time, because when you're trying to think of, like, nowadays when I'm responding, even if it's just a text message or if it's something on Facebook or whatever, just too much time goes into what am I going to say? How am I going to respond? I want this to appear smart. I want people to be able to comprehend what I'm reading.
You worry way too much.
I want people to, well, like if I'm going to take the time to write something, I want it to be like,
it's not a novel.
I want it to, a lot of the times it turns into one.
Yeah, I know.
But like you want it to be interpreted the right way. And so you have to like proofread yourself a bunch of times. And when you're sending a text message, it's like, okay, I know my intention with this text message and what this means, but this other person on the receiving end, the way this looks right now, they're gonna think I'm an asshole. I gotta back that up and reword this, or they're gonna think I don't care, or whatever.
Yeah, and the issue,
fill in the fucking blank.
The issue with that is that you'll never be able to get by that.
That's why I just want to kind of get rid of it, so it's not a thought on my mind anymore.
Right. I mean, you cannot use it.
But if it's there, if those bubbles are there, if those red bubbles are there,
well, you can turn those notifications off.
I don't even want to get notifications anymore.
We'll turn them off.
I don't even want to like get on Facebook and see, and like, even though the little red
if
icon
I get on
isn't
Facebook,
there,
it'll suck me in.
I just don't even want to. Oh, this person responded to your, because like if you comment on something, like, are you ever like sitting there anticipating what the other person's going to say back, and then it kind of distracts you for those next few minutes, and you can't.
Yeah, of course.
That like bugs me too much.
I'm not
like,
I don't understand that, but because if you were in a conversation, that would be the.
And I don't even have a Twitter, like, because that's just a raging dumpster fire.
Right.
Like that thing is like exists for arguments to happen. Facebook, I think there's positive attributes to it too, but you know, it's those negative ones that gets its hooks in me, and I just think like the short-term and long-term effects of using social media for someone like myself, and I think for a lot of other people, is it's ultimately negative.
Yeah.
And I think like if you had a side-by-side comparison of yourself having a Facebook and yourself not having a Facebook, and you look at those two different end results, which is the happier person? I think the happier person's the one that doesn't have one.
Yeah. Well, so my only issue with that, my only issue with that statement is I'm big on you controlling you. So like nothing control like like obviously if someone came in and shot you, my emotions would reflect that. I can't really control the emotion in the moment, but in general, you control yourself. You control your mind, your body, all that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of discipline to get to that point where you're like, I don't let things affect me or this or that. So I think your mind would be clearer in a way without social media, because I've gone on like hiatuses from social media before, and a week or two into it, like once my body literally adjusted to not getting dopamine from social media, it was like, wow, this is so awesome.
Yeah.
But I also think you can live just as happy if you learn to control the impulses. It's just you have to be very disciplined. Like there are many times I find myself just staring at my phone, just going down the rabbit hole of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
Yeah.
Or, one thing that always gets me is with the business, like I have to, not constantly, but I find myself a lot like attempting to find content, whether I end up and post anything or not. It's just like a lot of time spent attempting to find content, or how do I find content to do post?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I always end up on them, social media, to some extent.
Right.
So it's just like you just have to be very disciplined. Like with the issue with social media that I find is if you get on social media with an agenda, social media is very good at pulling you away from that. Like violently good. Like you'll be on there for 2 minutes and forget why you got on.
Yeah. They know how to
That's
keep you on
that's
there.
the biggest issue with it. So if you can discipline yourself with like, this is what I'm getting on to do and getting off, like I think that tool, social media as a tool is like invaluable.
Yeah.
Like a beyond belief.
And to each his own. Like there's certain things I can be disciplined about. There's
Right.
certain things that I don't want to ever say I can't do something,
Right.
because I think if I put enough effort in, I could. But for me, like the easy solution, the quick
Yeah.
fix would just
Yeah.
be not to have it, because I think that's what's good for me. And maybe there'd be
Right.
a day where, I feel like I could take it back, although maybe I would get addicted to the feeling of not having it. Like, wow, this is so
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, other people will have better self-control with that.
Right.
Me, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just weird. It's just like it's such this ingrained thing in society now. Like if someone doesn't have a Facebook, it's like, oh, you don't have a Facebook? What?
Right.
Jeez. What rock you been living under?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's just like, well, I don't know how to communicate with you now, which is ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, but I don't know. It's like it's one of those things. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
It's just kind of part of what it is now. But we're only on this planet for so few years.
Right.
And I just don't feel like there's really anything I can bring to the table for the world, myself, or anybody else by having a Facebook. I think ultimately all I'm going to do is waste my time with it, because, like you just said, they're experts at getting your ass on it and staying on it. Its algorithm knows what you like and or knows what you get hung up on, knows what I get hung up on, and it'll keep you there as best it can. And if anything, even if Facebook was just all sunshine and rainbows,
right?
It's still like the time factor.
Oh,
there's so much time.
You'll waste an entire day on Facebook and be like, oh no.
Yeah, I almost
what happened?
Feel sick sometimes when like I'm like typing up something and I look up at the clock and I'm like, God, 10 minutes have gone by and I'm thinking of this one sentence. I don't know how to word this.
Right.
I'm like, God, what a fucking waste of time. We're here for 70, 80 years if we're lucky. And Jesus Christ.
I don't think 2 minutes. You should be worried about that. But
2 minutes, no. 10, 15, 30, yeah. Every day.
I'm going to get stressed out either way.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But at the very least, maybe I'll just kind of like deactivate it so I can still manage the business, but just turn everybody else off.
Yeah.
Not anything against everybody, but for
Well,
my
you
own
can
good.
deactivate like all of the notifications just to start there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a start.
I mean, because then it's just kind of like you're getting on to check. You're not being like called to get on, so to say.
Yeah. And if somebody posts something stupid and I want to jump on them for it, like, to me, that's like, why am I? Because I used to say the dumbest things on social media
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Like, Time Hop will remind you 10 years ago, you said
And you're like, I'm gonna
7 years ago, 6 years. Once we get to like 1 year, 2 years ago is when I'm like, okay, you're not so bad now. But my God,
I see the change.
yeah, I was like, at least it like put it into perspective for me to show like
Right.
what a piece of shit you were, and like,
No. You can't look at it negatively.
No,
You have to
like-
say, I'm evolving as a
no,
person.
it is no, yeah, that's what I mean. It's a good thing because what a piece of shit you were,
No.
and now how
That's
much
just where
better you are now.
That's where you were at the moment.
Whatever, figure of speech.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Figure of speech. What I'm saying is better now
Right.
than it like
Yeah.
shows me like,
Yeah.
hey, there has been this change.
Right.
Because what used to be this like brainwash, like I mentioned with like the church stuff,
Yeah.
like super Republican, super right wing conservative, Bible thumping, like
Right.
no actual free thinking thought of my own. It
Right.
came from the pulpit. I was just parroting what the
Yeah.
pulpit would say, like, oh, this guy's like a man of God, what he said is, it sounds right. It has to be right. This is God we're talking about here,
Right.
know. Like, we have to go along with what God says.
This is a whole podcast.
Oh, for sure.
We'll mark this one in.
Yeah,
the
make one
calendar.
all about that. But yeah, then like used to be like this extreme right as like a stupid coming of age teenager, and to like go from that and then
Right.
like go really hard left just because I'm running so far away from it as hard as I
Right.
can, and then I go so far left, I'm like, and then I stop and look around at where I'm at. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to be here either.
Yeah.
And so then
It's
I like,
because the extreme sides of both are the same.
yeah, they are. So it's like been to both of them.
Right.
I'll be at one when I was in like my teenage years, so like an
Right.
idiot, didn't know anything.
Right.
But because you're dealing with such like stupid mentality, I guess
Yeah.
it's can just roll right along with it, I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah, of course.
because it's so simple, so simple-minded to
Yeah.
I was gonna say simple-minded fuck. That's what you feel like. But yeah, like going across the political and the religious spectrum,
Right.
and just like really hardcore bouncing all over the place, where I didn't want to end up, but where I did for a while, was this middle fingers in every direction, like
Right.
this outsider's mentality.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off, go fully independent.
Right.
Which I still,
Do you know what causes that?
it's like a rebellious mentality, like a
No,
pushback against
that-
everything that's authoritarian.
Right. What I mean is the want to be in a group is that
Yeah.
like beat into our heads box mentality. Like
Yeah.
I have to be somewhere or I'm nowhere,
Right.
and that's terrible.
And
I hate that that's a thing.
and learning to be okay and happy by yourself is
Right.
like a really valuable thing.
No,
And it's
100%.
awesome once you can realize, like, hey, you don't have to be like surrounded by friends or put up on
Right.
pedestals all the
Yep.
time, or have that you yourself being the center of attention, because even if you are, in 5 years, no one's going to really remember, no one's going to care. Like, I think ultimately at the end of your life, and this is some like saying from somewhere, but people aren't going to remember anything really that
Right.
you say or do, but
Yep.
they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that's kind of like the thought,
Yeah.
that I've been trying to play in my head.
Yeah.
Like more on repeat, like have that mentality. That's ultimately what matters, not these glorified 15
Right.
minutes of fame or recognition, because no one cares. Does anyone
Well-
know who won the Super Bowl 5 years ago? No one cares.
I mean, a lot of people care. But yeah, and I mean, on that type of subject, that's where, like, not to go into crazy deepness, but like that's where I got with a lot of things. Like, I just strongly believe at this point you have to approach every situation like almost like a child. Like you just have to understand that whatever situation, whatever person you're dealing with has like grown up with a ton of shit just like you did. You're meeting them or seeing something at a point of their life where maybe they didn't decide to try to fix anything. And this is the construct that is them in front of you. And you have to meet that as that. Like some of this might not be their fault. Like you go to therapy, you'll learn a lot about yourself that you didn't understand it came from somewhere.
Eat a lot of humble pie.
Yeah. So like when you approach a situation, or if something terrible happens where you have to deal with people or life, you just have to understand it's not the end of the world. There is like a brighter day, and I know you love and hate the silver lining me, but like there is something in every situation where you can like take, it could be a simple, like I think we had this conversation before where I gave the analogy, like, maybe like a cashier at the grocery store is like super shitty with you, super short, just a turd of a person. And instead of giving it back to them and reflecting their attitude, you just give them like just a glimmer of hope by like asking them how their day was.
Yeah.
Like there have been numerous times where someone, you're like going through the drive-through at McDonald's and they're like, "Hi, how may I help you?" And you're like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And they're like, "Good," because no one asked them. That no one cares about them. It's like something simple like that could like change an entire day. Or like, you get up to the window and they're like, "Hi, sir, how are you today?" "Good, how are you?" "Good." Like no one cares. Like something small where you're just bypassing an attitude, or like you're overcoming this like weird thing that they said and not overdoing any like, "Oh, they're a shitty person so they deserve it."
Yeah.
Like once you can step over like that, like I saw this thing on Facebook going around and I was like, "Oh boy, that's going to hit hard on some people." And it was just this post about how parents, this guy posted like, "Didn't you go through shit so your kids didn't have to?" And I was like, whoa, there's a lot of people that need to hear that, because how many times in your life have you heard, "I did this when I was younger, so can you," or "I went through this so my kids could too." And it was like, isn't the point of like growth or advancement so that the next set of people below you don't have to go through what you do?
Makes
The answer
sense.
is yes. And like we come to this weird thing where it's like, if you give me emotion, I'm going to give you the same thing back. Or if I go through something, then other people should have to experience it too. And we get caught in this weird world of like no advancement. And that's like to tie it all back together with like the start of our conversation with like people in different factions. It's just like there's no conversation anymore. And it's all because like this person did this one thing. So for me to feel better, I have to show them that extreme nature also. And then it's just this back and forth, and no one, there's no advancement in that
Like,
at all.
whoever your enemy is, imagine that, just swap places like from birth.
Right.
And you each have each other's parents. You were born in that hospital. You were raised in those circumstances. How do you turn out? Like, you could just as easily be susceptible to a dark path, or going down the wrong road in the same way or in your own way or whatever kind of way. And it's just like recognizing that we're all susceptible of going down the wrong path in one way or another, or certain weaknesses, and just recognizing that. And if like you said, if you can inject like just a little sunshine into somebody's day,
right,
blow sunshine up their ass, go ahead. How are you? But yeah, like when I'm like walking down, it's weird, like you cross paths with somebody and it feels more awkward to not look at them and nod your head and like, how are you doing? But like when I am crossing paths with someone and I go to do that, it's just like they look away, or they look down, like, or they just keep looking down the whole time. They're just looking at the sidewalk. Like they just want to get past you as fast as possible So this awkward situation is over and done
That's
with.
because humanity has lost touch.
It's like
with
if you would just
itself.
look at me and smile and say good morning, we would both be over this.
Yeah.
We would
But
both
now
be
I'm
happy.
gonna physically fight you.
Yeah. Let's just start punching
I
each
will
other.
find you on Facebook.
You got a MAGA hat on. Yeah. I don't know. It's like we're all human beings. We all crave the same things. There's certain things that like everyone needs, and like one of them is
Right.
love. Like we all want that. And so if we can just show someone a little bit of kindness, no matter how shitty our day was,
Right.
like that selfless, quick and easy. It's as easy as like flipping your car blinker.
Right.
It can have a ripple effect
Yep.
that will get carried from one person to the next, to the next, to the next.
Well, and one thing that caring for another human being does is it does more for you than it probably does for that person in the moment, or just the equivalent equal amounts. I don't know what I was trying to say. To you than it does to them also, because the one thing that will usually just cancel everything out, and this is something that I've just been like stirring on recently, where it's like if you treat everyone like they're having a bad day or a worse day than you are, like your world will completely change, because you don't know what someone's going through. Someone could be treating you shitty because they just found out their landlord is going to kick them out at the end of the week and they have no way to pay.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea, but your first reaction is, oh, I'm going to be shitty to them because they're shitty to me. You're like, come on.
Yeah.
Like if we knew every situation, if we had the ability to look into a mind, I think, yeah, there would be people that are just shitty just cause.
Right.
But I also think there would be more times than not where you're like, wow, like if I would have known, I would have treated them so different.
If there's someone that's just power tripping on you and they like just crushing the little man
Right.
under their thumb, I think if you're shitty back to them, that's giving them what they want. But you take,
Right.
I mean, I sound like a dad talking to
No,
his
you
son.
take the power.
Yeah, you take their power away if you either don't respond or respond nicely. Then maybe they feel like an asshole about themselves, as they
Right.
should.
Yeah.
So it's like it's either you're either gonna get a win from it, or a draw, or a no contest,
Right.
or whatever. But the point is, it's not gonna like bring you down.
There are very few times where showing and caring for someone goes wrong. And if it does go wrong, you made the attempt and they're choosing not to like receive that.
Yeah.
And then that was better than you adding to it though. You're not adding to like the fire in that sense.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you never know who's on edge, and you don't want to be that last push before they go over the cliff. You want to be the one that pulls them away from the edge.
Right.
Even if it's just by a little bit, it might make all the difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, with that being said, I might deactivate that Facebook.
Oh, here we come back.
I feel like that's how I can best serve humanity and myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a good point to end it on love talk.
Yeah. Well, record-setting podcast of time.
Right. So yeah, we will.
Hey, we got someone watching the show. Yay!
That's awesome.
They'll come around.
We will keep doing podcasts like this, where we just kind of sit and talk because both of us like it. If you enjoy this, please subscribe, follow us anywhere and everywhere. If you don't like this, let us know and we'll adjust it.
If we
please.
like your new idea, if we like your suggestion.
Right. So with that being said, please go to Anchor, follow us, send us a voice message, like and subscribe, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Anchor, everywhere. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. So please show us some love, interact with us, because we will take your suggestions and make them real.
Start spreading the love.
So with that being said, I guess we'll end it, right? You good with that?
Oh, we're so close to 3 hours, but we don't want to beat this dead horse. I think we've come full circle.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even remember exactly where we began with it, but we were talking about 2020, and
Well, I think full circle. I think we've come full circle.
yeah, I
What
think
do you
we touched on just about everything in the universe at least once.
Right.
So we'll call it quits for tonight. But that's the episode of Freeform Discussion, Freestylin.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll title this episode.
Freestylin'.
Freestylin.
All right. Well, peace.
Peace.
You know, freaking. No, what's this? But I have to have one yourself. Idiot.
You're